Close the doors of your mind. Close the gates of your makashba, your yetzer, your imaginations and your thoughts in your heart and your mind. From your left ventricle to your right ventricle that pumps oxygen and deoxygenated blood throughout your body. All the way down to your liver and your spleen and your kidneys. All the way through your center of your body, all the way through your hands and your feet that control what you do. With your yad and your kaf and your feet, your regal where you go. And if you wash your feet and you say you humble yourself and wash somebody else's feet. And bring your mind to balance within yourself, within your 12 cranial nerves, within your 12 melanin centers, within your 12 manners of fruit that's in your mind and your thought process and your consciousness. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day of warning. Today is a day that Yahuwah has given to us as another Shabath, that he may mishpat and cast judgment on our life, that he may chastise and rebuke, that he may give us an understanding of who we are as his children, that we may walk in newness of life and newness of heart, that we may not walk in the ancient, we may walk in the ancient way, but not in the ancient way of Cain, our brother. Not to walk in the ancient way of Cain, and to walk after his teachings and his struggles and the things that he actually induced on other people by his teachings and his following of other beings and other Malaki, Jaza, Azazel, and Asbaal, and Amaros, and all of the fallen, that 200 fallen, and all those who ganged up on the world and destroyed the world through their teaching. Yahuwah Elohim governs it all, who sits in the highest Shemaim above all gods and all people and all kings and rulers, both male and female, both male is Zakar Nakubah. He rules over all Elohims of the 13, above all gods, with his son Yahusha who sits at his right hand. And now, as we move forward in his understanding, because his understanding surpasses our understanding, and his peace surpasses our shalom, and his wisdom surpasses our hukmah, and what we call wisdom on earth. Yahuwah Elohim. So this is the book of Malachi. As you go to the book of Micah, chapter 3, verse 1. 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 And I said, hear you heads of your code. So hear you heads, you Rosh. How you say the heads of your code. And rulers of the house of Yasharal. Is it not for you to know justice? Like we talked about justice last week. We say truth is lacking. And justice is far away. You're supposed to know what justice is. You're supposed to know what mishpat is. Right, that word for Micah 3 and 1, that word for Micah 3 and 1, that word for justice is mishpat. You're supposed to know what mishpat is. To cast they say properly a verdict. You need to know what that is. A sentence, a formal decree, a divine for the law or for an individual. You need to know that. So how are you going to be married? How you say married to an Isha with a household with male servants, men servants, male servants? How you say children, animals, all these things that according to the Torah is a part of your household head. So how are you supposed to know how to govern your home or to even be able to be in that position if you don't know what justice is? How is a woman supposed to be over children and all these things in a home and being in the czar if she doesn't know what justice or mishpat is? It's impossible to run your household in a governing type fashion, in an authoritative type fashion. It's impossible. You don't know what's right from wrong. And when you don't know right from wrong, you're going to be casting judgment on your people around you based upon your information and lack of knowledge. According to Hosea 6, 4 and 6, that will be destruction for your household and the next generation. And it says, verse 2, you who hate the good and love the evil, right? He said, you hate good and love the evil. And you know what happens after that? The book of Proverbs said, he that returned evil for good, he said, evil will not depart of his house. He said, you who hate good and love evil. He said, you got an evil eye. You know, we talked about the lamp of the body is the eye. If that eye be full of darkness, be a raw eye, then guess what? The whole body is full of darkness. You who hate good and love evil, who tear the skin from off my people. He said, man, you skin them alive. And what do? And their flesh from their bones. He said, and that's what you do. You know how we talk about biting and devouring each other? Take care lest you be consumed one of another. What do you do to the animal before you kill it? You slit its throat and then you skin it. And then what? And you tear the flesh off their bones, you start eating it. You know, we talked about in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, it says what? He said, because you have nothing left in the siege, because you didn't serve Yahuwah for joyful and gladness for the abundance of things, he said, you're going to eat the flesh of your children that come out between your feet. Didn't he say that to the woman? That's what you're going to do. It says, verse 3 says, who eat the flesh of my people and flay their skin from off of them, and break their bones in pieces and chop them up like meat in a pot, like flesh in a cauldron. He said, man, you eat just like you eat flesh, just like you told Adam. He said, all these things you're going to eat. He said, every herb yielding seed that brings forth fruit, you're supposed to have for food, and the animals too. But look what you're doing. When you start to leave the pattern that Yahuwah prescribed for you, then you'll find yourself biting and devouring everybody in your household, everybody in your community. You'll be cooking them just like you cook an animal. You'll be hunting them down and killing them and skinning them alive because you don't know justice and sentence. You don't know the actual proper judgment. Verse 4, then they will cry to Yahuwah, but he will not answer them. So whose fault that is? And the rulers of the house of Yasharal, go back to verse 1, whose fault that is? And guess what it says? Then they will cry to Yahuwah, but he will not answer them. He guess what? I'm going to forget your children too. You know, today everybody's like, what's going on? And crying to Yahuwah, right? He said, I'll forget your children. He will hide his face from them at that time. Which means there's going to be a famine in the land. Not of bread, not of food, but of hearing the depart. Why? Because nobody's going to be around to hear it. They say nobody's going to be able to speak it. Like the people who got the proper sentence ain't going to be talking. I'm going to hide my face from them. We'll see what y'all going to do after that. And he will hide his face from them at that time because they have made their deeds evil. Because they don't know proper judgment. They don't know the sentence of these things. Thus says Yahuwah concerning the Nabi, who lead my people astray, who cry peace, when they have something to eat. Isn't that what they do? You cry shalom when everybody got something to eat. But guess what? But declare war against him who puts nothing in their mouth, into their mouths. Because you know, when people ain't putting nothing in their mouth, guess what you do? Why you ain't eating? Why you not putting something in your mouth? Why? Because it's an evil time. You know how it talks about? Because when it's an evil time, people start acting differently. Why? Because when it's an evil time, it's important because you'll see. Right, so this is the book of Hosea because it's an evil time. Yeah, this is the book, actually Amos. Go to Amos chapter 5 verse 1. Amos chapter 5 verse 1. Hear this word that I take over you in lamentation, in crying, right? Because when people are crying out, he said, I ain't going to listen to you. But he says, oh, house of Yasharal, that's 12, Shalosh Matah, Yasharal, the ones who came out from Yaakov, the ones who rebelled against Yahuwah, whom Yahusha came and died for, will lay down his life that they may see him again, Yahuwah as their father, but they don't see him anymore. Then he went to the Goim, and some of the Goim believed. And then you see some of their patterns of it, and you see how the Goim got off and started taking over. And then the Goim started taking over the doctrine. And now he created this whole Torah, this whole world full of people who don't even observe Yahuwah's Torah and law. And they took over. They have. But they mixed in with all their other stuff, and now everybody worshiping other things and doing other things. And now Yahuwah upset. And it says, verse 2 says, fallen no more to rise is the virgin of Yasharal, forsaken on her land, with none to raise her up. How you going to raise her up? As rain and snow come down from Shemayim, so that the Barbie that goes out of my mouth. But if it ain't no rain and snow, how are you going to raise up? Just like a root out of the dry ground. Just like Yahusha was a root out of the dry ground. He had no kindness or favor that anyone should desire him. Why? Because he took on the value of a whore, of a zanah. Because Yasharal and Yehuda was zanah, so he had no kindness or favor that nobody wanted him. Everybody wanted a Bethula. But it says, for thus says Yahuwah Elohim, the city that went out 1,000 shall be left 100, right? So here we go. Going to verse 10. Going to verse 10. They hate him who reproves in the gate. Why do you think they hated Yahushua? He said, it's written in your Torah, they hated me without a cause. You know why? Because he was saying that their deeds were evil, because he had proper judgment. We talked about proper mishpat. He was giving proper judgment. That's what he was sent to do. According to the book of Exodus, he was sent to judge. But they hated him because he was saying things that they were doing were evil. Because it is. Because he without sin cast the first stone. Among you. And then you know what people do? They ready to throw and cast judgment on people, and he say, are you sure? And he says, they hate him who reproves in the gate and abhor him who speaks the truth. Because they hate you without a cause. All right, he said, I already know you hate. He said, when you got an alcohol addiction and when you steal other men's wives and you lust and you fornicate and you call yourself a head of Yasharal, then guess what happens? You should say you are of your father Satan. And the lust of your father you do. And you are one of those candidates that Yahuwah going to say, what? Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. I never knew you. We cast out demons in your name, Nabat in your name, did money works in your name. And guess what? People say, it's not a barak to hear that before I die. He said, yes, it is, because then you can actually make things right before you die. Verse 10 says, they hate him who reproves in the gate and abhor him who speaks the truth. Therefore, because you trample on the poor, they do what? They trample on the poor. And that's what people do today. That's what women do to their husbands. They go and trample on and destroy their whole life, their whole financial future. Because they just get upset and they want to destroy the family. And a wise woman builds her house and a fool tears it down to the ground. They want to destroy you. And then guess what? They trample, and then you're poor, and they start trampling on you some more. That rhymes too. And all that comes together with the same attributes of the same people, the same behaviors that destroy the world before. It's the same behaviors that destroyed the world during the time of Nuach, and that's what we're living in today. As we approach Kafar, I say Day of Atonement, you can start to see why he made the ark in the same, he called it Kafar, because it's an atonement. Because all this is a part of what? The same patterns of behavior that caused the world to be destroyed before, in times past. And it says, and they abhor him who speaks the truth. Therefore, because you trample on the poor and you exact taxes of grain from him, you have built houses of hewn stone. You know what people do today? They collect that taxes, they collect that extra money on top, that 15, 30, 20% on top. Then they use that to build themselves a house, and then they be like, look at me. Look at how big my house is. Look at how all this stuff. And you actually just exacted taxes. And the same people who actually say these things out of their mouth do it to their own people. And they say they obey Deuteronomy chapter 19 through 25. Chapters 19 through Deuteronomy chapter 25. And they say they obey it, and they don't. They don't even do it. They say, but they don't do. Do all they command you to do, but don't do after what they do. But it says, you exact taxes of grain from him. You have built houses of hewn stone, but you shall not dwell in them. He said, you ain't going to dwell in them. You know what happens? You have pleasant vineyards, but you shall not drink the wine. Skip going to verse 13. Actually, keep going. Keep going. And it says, for I know how many your transgressions and how great are your sins. You who afflict the righteous, who take a bribe in judgment. When it's time to judge, you take bribes. And you turn aside the needy in the gate. They poor. And guess what you do? Therefore, he who is prudent will keep silent in such a time. You will say, I'm going to hide my face from you. We just read it. Book of Micah. I'm going to hide my face from you. They're going to keep, he that is prudent will keep silent in such a time, for it is an evil time. You know why? They're not, he say, what the Nabi do? They start attacking those who don't put nothing in their mouth. What do you think people who are silent going to be doing in an evil time? They're going to be fasting. Because it's an evil time. Because you know why? They ain't gonna be putting nothing in their mouth. Because they realize everybody transgressing. What's the point of putting stuff in our mouth? But you know, the Nabi gonna be like, why you ain't putting nothing in your mouth? What's the point? We're approaching Kafar, but that's something that should be doing throughout the year because we already know why these things are happening. He said, why? Because look at the world today. Look at the people. You know, people who say, I believe in Yahuwah, I keep the commandments and laws. All these things are lies. Everybody lying. Right? And when we say we're not lying, yes we are. We're lying to ourselves with Yahushua Mashiach's blood on us and saying that we believe in Yahushua Mashiach, we believe in his name, we follow his steps. He did no sin, which means he ain't transgressed none of these things that I'm talking about. And no deceit was found in his mouth. Verse 14, seek good and not evil. We just talking about you who hate the good and love the evil. And now he's telling you to seek good and not evil. Why? Because you gotta get that evil eye out of you. That iron, that dark eye, that darkness. You know, that dark eye is like a pirate who put a patch over his head, over his face. You know that pirate patch eye? He said, your vision off, ain't it? And now you see why they plucked out Yahushua's, they put a blindfold over him. They put that pirate eye, you know how they cover that right eye, because you know you don't want nobody to see what you be looking at. Because if you ever look at somebody, understand, people are always looking at your right eye. People don't know that, though. That's the first eye people look at when they look at your two eyes. And people say, how do you know that? And people have no idea what you will be knowing. And it says, seek good and not evil, that you may live. And so Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, will be with you. That's the only way he's going to be with you. If you keep doing evil, please don't be thinking Yahuwah with you. People say, nah, Yahuwah with me. They say, nah, he ain't with you. He say, man, no, he not with you. You're disobedient to parents, disobedient to the actual bar, disobedient to the law, you were breaking them, disobedient to the things that Yahuwah gave you in your life. He said disobedient to what Yahuwah said, disobedient to your husband, disobedient to the things that are revealed to you at night in your dreams that Yahuwah told you to do. Disobedient, you wake up and you don't even want to do it. You know, people say, I'm sent by Yahuwah. And it says, and he says, and establish justice in the gate. Hate evil and love good and establish justice in the gate. Mishpat. That's the only way you're going to get it. It may be that Yahuwah, your Elohim of hosts, will be gracious to the remnant of Yusuf. That's the only reason. It may be gracious. Establish Mishpat in the gate. Because you know why? They're going to hate you too after you start doing it. Because you know, once everybody gets real evil and got real comfortable in what they do, and then you start casting judgment on what they're doing inside the gate, inside your house, inside where you live, inside places, then guess what happened? They're going to hate your everlasting God. Please don't be thinking they're going to love you. What you mean we can't do this no more? We can't do that no more? We can't do this no more? We can't do this no more? We can't do that no more? I thought you was the head. You said we could. And then Yahuwah say, repent and bring judgment back. And you're going to be hated. And you may lose every single thing you got after you start casting judgment on them and on everything and on your own life. You may lose everything too. Because not everything's wrong. These are the things that people don't want to do. He said, what you mean? It's wrong now? That's the whole point. Because that's why people don't want to bring judgment back. Because then they have to admit that they're wrong. And that's going to be a real embarrassing thing. And they're going to be like, who are you to judge me? But that's the only way Yahuwah is going to be gracious to you. If people say, I want Yahuwah to be great. I want Yahuwah's great. You know what I say? They sing that great song. We used to say, gracious. They used to sing that thing all the time. He said, hold up. You want that? He gave us grace. You know, he gave us grace. Yahushua died and gave us grace, right? Yeah, he gave you grace to establish Mishpat back in the gate and start executing judgment and start saying what's evil and what's good. It says, therefore, thus says Yahuwah Elohim of hosts, in all the squares there shall be wailing, and in the streets they shall say, alas, alas, and they shall call the farmers to mourning, and to wailing those who are skilled in lamentation. They say, man, everybody gonna be skilled in it. Once you figure out what you did wrong and what he getting ready to do to people. And in all vineyards there shall be wailing, for I will pass through your midst, says Yahuwah. And you know when Yahuwah passed through your midst, you know what's gonna happen. Let me show you. Because some people be thinking when Yahuwah be passing by, what's gonna happen? And let me show you. Because people be thinking like, man, everything gonna be good and everything not. It's not, man. This is the book of Shemuth, Exodus. This is the book of Exodus. This is the book of Exodus. Shemuth, Exodus, chapter 33, verse 17. Exodus, Shemuth, chapter 33, verse 17. Yahuwah said, I'm going to pass through you. You know what happens when Yahuwah pass through? And we talk about Pesach. Right? But it said right here, verse 33, 17. Exodus 33, 17. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, this very thing that you have spoken I will do. For you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. And you say, I want Yahuwah to know me by name, right? That's what people saying. He just told you to establish mishpat in the gate. Then he says, judge properly within yourself and remove injustice from your tent, from your house. And this is what he says. Moshe said, please show me your kabod. Show me your glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you my name, Yahuwah. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious. Now you see why Yahuwah gonna pass through us. And you know why? And I'm gonna be gracious to whom I'm gonna be gracious. Because the ones who do this, he gonna be gracious to you. Because don't you not that the Chdsh gonna judge the world? And if you can't judge these small matters, how you gonna judge Malachim? How you gonna judge a higher being of higher nature and higher thoughts? It's above your life style. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and show mercy on whom I will show mercy. When Yahuwah come through there, understand. Show me your kabod. You sure? When Yahuwah come through, some people may live and some people may not. Get what? But he said, you cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live. He said, man, you ain't gonna, if you see me, you're gonna die. You know what he says? And Yahuwah said, behold, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock. Say what? And Yahuwah said, behold, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock. I liken to a wise man who builds his house on a rock. When the floods came and the winds blew, that house didn't fall because it was founded on a rock. Because you know when Yahuwah passed by and when Yahuwah visits you, it ain't going to be good for everything else around you. It's not. It's not. I promise you that. And get what it says. Man shall not see me and live. And Yahuwah said, behold, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock. And while my glory, my kabod passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. And you people say, this is why you need Yahuwah on your side. With all these things that people doing in the world. You need his hand to cover you in the rock, where the rock at. And you need him to cover you with his right hand. You need him to cover you. Because when he come through, I assure you, everything around you may not survive. And it says, then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back. And he's like, it's like, you know how you see things pass by? You ever seen a tornado go by? And then you'll see it coming in the front. He's like, when you see that thing, you dead. Because if you see the tornado coming at you, and it's coming at you full speed, you're going to die. Because you shouldn't be there. You need to be in the ditch somewhere else in a rock. And then Yahuwah cover you with a rock. And then when the storm passes by, then you look at the back part of the storm when it's gone by. He's like, woo, that was close. Man, that means. Then you look around and you see all the destruction that happened, but you see the back part of the storm. And he covered you in the storm the whole time. That's Yahuwah's great calm. Then I will take my hand and you shall see my back, but my face you shall not be seen. Why? Because Yahuwah had con on you, gracious, because you established mishpat back in your gate, in your place, in your house, in your household, and Yahuwah had con on you. And guess what? When he came through and executed judgment, guess what happened? His kabod, his glory came through. Then guess what happens? You're now protected. Your household is protected. When a hurricane comes, when a storm comes, when the flood comes, you're protected. Because you established mishpat back in the gate. You know what happens to the people who don't want to be in the gate when it happens? They're going to die. Something might happen to them. Because people say they wise in their own eyes and they think that they can see, and then they're going to build their house in the sand and they think they're going to survive, and no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. This is Yeshayahu 29. He said, because you know why? Because I have to cover you. Because he said, he that is prudent going to keep silence in this time, right? Because he knows. Because he knows, right? So going back to that book, going back to Amos chapter 5, verse 13. Amos chapter 5, verse 13. Therefore, he who is prudent will keep silent in such a time, for it is an evil time. Seek good and not evil, that you may live. And so Yahuwah, your Elohim of hosts, will be with you, as you have said. Hate evil and love good, and establish justice in the gate. It may be that Yahuwah, your Elohim of hosts, will be gracious to the remnant of the youth. Why? Because if you ain't got it in the gate, understand. If you ain't got it inside your house, in your gates, you know how it says what? Right on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. If you ain't got it, the mishpat and the proper justice in your house and on your gates, you understand what's going to happen. You ain't found on the rock. This is very important, right? Very important, right? Very important, right? Right, so this is the book of Amos chapter 8. I think it's Amos. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, Amos chapter 8, verse 1. 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 This is what Yahuwah Elohim has showed me. Behold, a basket of summer fruit. Right? We're now moving out of the summer, and now we're moving into what? Fall. And it says, and he said, Amos, what do you see? And I said, a basket of summer fruit. And he said to me, the end is come upon my people Yashra. It's the end of the summer now. It's the end of the summer. You know how we talk about summertime. You know, everybody getting their last little bit in. Trees starting to turn, leaves starting to fall. It's starting to get a little cooler now. The end has come upon my people, Yashra. I will never pass by them. And you know what happens when Yahuwah don't pass by? You ain't gonna get no rain. You ain't finna get no storms. You not finna get no type of thing to make your harvest and your crops grow. The end is coming upon people. I will never pass by them again. The songs of the temple shall be wailing. You know what's going to happen after that? When Yahuwah don't pass by, because you know, just like as rain and snow come down from Shamayim, so does the Barbie that goes out of my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it will accomplish what I sent it to do. It shall succeed in for which I sent it. Because he sends rain and snow, just like it's the bar. And if you don't get that, they're going to be wailing in your temple in that day, declares Yahuwah. So many dead bodies, because people are going to die of starvation because there's a famine in the land. But not even knowing it, the famine that man has today is hearing the bar. And there's no justice in the gate. So, you know, for the wages of sin is death. And sin is the transgression of the law. And for the wages of sin is death. There are going to be a lot of dead bodies everywhere. Because you know why? Because people are doing things that Yahuwah has to execute judgment for. And guess what? They are thrown everywhere. Silence. And Putin gonna keep silence in that time. Because it's an evil time. And guess what? Hear this, you who trample on the needy. Same thing. And you bring the poor of the land to an end. It says, and bring the poor of the land to an end, saying, will the Chdsh yard be over, that we may sell grain? Because you was adding interest to the grain, that you may build you a brick house. Nice little house too, nice little property with your own little thing. It looks really good too. But if Yahuwah come by there, I assure you, your house will not stand. You know what it says? And he said, when they get new grain in the Shabath, that we may offer wheat for sale. And they be putting that interest on top of it too. That we may make the ephah small and the shekel great, and deal deceitfully with false balances. Because you got to get that gain. And this ain't even got to be grain wheat. You adding interest on top of it. It could just be you already satisfied with things in your life, and then you add extra pressure on somebody to get more because you just want to be in control of somebody. That's interest. So you can get you a nice, big, giant, something else, something bigger, something better. It ain't got to be that. It don't even got to be an interest. You can add interest to somebody's life, but just adding extra burdens to their life to bring their life to an end. And you say, because that's how men die early. And it says that we may make the ephah small and the shekel great, and deal deceitfully with false balances, that we may buy the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, and sell the chaff of the wheat. He's selling the most weakest part of the wheat. We talking about the chaff that blow in the wind. They putting that as wheat, saying it's wheat, and they selling it as wheat, and it's really chaff. And then you're buying the poor for cheap, buying the poor for silver, and the needy for a pair of sandals, for slaves. And then you selling chaff for wheat. That little weak part of the wheat that fly off in the wind when you put it and you sift it. You putting that as wheat in the bag, and then you telling people to make bread out of it. And then you say, you know how black people are, brown, you know good and well, when somebody really need money, they'll be swindling you all the time. Extortion. That's why they sell t-shirts for $10, $5 to make, and they sell it for $58, $160, $70. How in the world a t-shirt costs $70? Because it got "keep going" on the front of the shirt. What in the world? It cost $5 to make the shirt, and you just wrote "keep going" on the front of it, and now it's $60. All because you need a nice little house in the crib, you gotta pay your mortgage, or you gotta get about 8 more houses to build, because you need a big, nice, giant land to make. And then you want people to respect you, your wisdom, and anything you speak out of your mouth, and then people hit the like button. That's how and then you know how you just did? You just got all them poor people to worship you, and not even knowing that Yahuwah gonna come and he gonna challenge you. And you don't want that. His hand ain't gonna cover you when he passed by. And Yahuwah has sworn by the pride of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their deeds. I'm telling you. You know how we think when Yahuwah forget? We know Yahuwah. We know Yahuwah. He ain't gonna forget what we did. So we ain't gonna be like, oh yeah, we're gonna forget. No, he ain't like, you already know Yahuwah ain't gonna forget. He'll say, hey, I remember everything y'all did. You get what he says? Shall not the land tremble on this account? What do you mean tremble? Earthquake. His voice gonna shake the earth. We talked about this. He's gonna shake the earth. It's gonna quake the earth. And everyone mourns who dwells in it. He's gonna quake the earth and break down your walls. Just like he's gonna break down a man and woman's walls that they put up when they don't want to hear his debar. He's I'm gonna break down your walls. I'm gonna break down your stony heart. And I'm going to give you a heart of flesh, and you're going to start mourning again. You're going to start crying again. You're going to have tears coming out of your eyes again. I'm going to break down your stony heart. And I'm going to give you a heart of flesh, according to Ezekiel chapter 36. I'm going to tear you down until there is none to deliver. And then you say, all your lovers have forgotten you, and then you're going to cry then. You'll cry then. But right now, he's saying, men, too hard-hearted to cry. I got to speed up the vibrations of your molecules in your heart and your mind, and I got to cause tears to flow from your eye in order for you to actually repent. And get what he says. And everyone who mourns shall dwell in it, and all of it, rise like the Nile flood. And guess what? And be tossed about and sink again, like the Nile of Mizraim. It's like the flood that rises up, and it goes back down. And he said, that's how it is. And on that day, declares Yahuwah Elohim, I will make the sun go down at noon. What do you mean the sun go down at noon? Because, what do you mean the sun? And I will darken the earth in the broad daylight. Why is that important? Because the sun has to stay up a certain amount of time for plants to grow. You have some plants that need a full sun the whole day. It's some plants that only need 3 hours of sun or 6 hours of sun. But there's some plants that need a full day's sun in order for them to grow. So if he makes the sun go down at noon, you're going to have half your crops ain't going to grow. And he said, I'm going to make the sun go down at noon. He said, why the sun so important? You want to know why the sun is so important? This is Ezekiel, this is Psalm chapter 19, verse 10. Actually, 19 and 4. Psalms 19 and 4. Their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he has set a tent, a hall for the sun, the Shema. But if the sun go down at noon, what's going to happen? Look at what it says. Which comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber. It comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber, just like your husband. Just like your husband. And guess what? And like a strong man runs its course with joy. And then when Yahushua say, he said, when a man, we bound a strong man, he said, a strong man guards his house. He said, there's somebody stronger than him coming to spoil his goods, right? But it said right here, its rising is from the end of Shemaims and its circuit to the end of them. And there is nothing hidden from its heat. Right? We just ended. The end of the summer is here. The law of Yahuwah is perfect and reviving the soul. The testimony of Yahuwah is sure, making wise the simple. Why? Because all that's a part of it. But he said, now I'm going to make the sun go down at noon in a clear day. Because what happens when the sun leaves? This is the book of Bereshit, Genesis chapter 37 and verse 1. Bereshit 37 and 5. Now Yusuf had a dream. And then he said he's going to have a mercy on the remnant of Yusuf. But let's see what happened. And it says, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even the more. And he said to them, hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it, and bowed down to my sheaf. But get what it says. His brothers said to him, are you indeed to reign over us? Are you indeed to rule over us? And we just read in the book of Micah, he talked about the heads of Yasharal. He said, look what's going on. He said, establish Mishpat in the gate. Perhaps I'll be gracious to the remnant of Yusuf. And guess what it says? So they hated him even the more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the Shamash, the moon, the Yark, and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. They bowed down to him, and they didn't give their light anymore. But when he told it to his father and his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I, the sun, and your mother and your brothers indeed to bow ourselves to the ground before you? So we're going to diminish our light? You're saying that the sun, because if he darkens the sun in a clear day, that means the sun only works 6 hours. That means the Father only works 6 hours. And you know the sun comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber. And he said, man, the sun going down at noon now. So therefore, time is short for me to work than it was before. Which means my wages are cut in half. And what I used to have before is now cut in half. Which means your lifestyle has been diminished. All because there ain't no mishpat in the gate. And because of all the interest that man been doing. And all the things and swindling and extortion. So Yahuwah said, you know what? I'm going to make the sun. Because man got, and people say, why Yahushua said this, right? This is why he said this. Because people don't understand why he says things. And the only reason they don't know it is because he don't want you to know it. This is the book of Yochanan chapter 9 and verse 1. John chapter 9 and verse 1. As he passed by, and then when Yahushua said he going to do the Mashah? Didn't what he said he going to do to the people of Yasharal, if they establish Mishpat in the gate? He said, I'm going to pass by you. Didn't he say that? And he's supposed to speak these words when you sit in the house, when you walk by the way. When I pass by. And then you see all these things taking place, and Yahuwah said, I'm going to darken the sun, I'm going to cut your wages in half. Because y'all were doing all this extortion, so y'all been working all day, and y'all just been swindling each other, so I'm going to cut the sun, make the sun go out at noon. So you can't work all the way to the end of the day and keep doing it. I'm going to cut your wages in half. Now let me see if you finish your house now. And he passed by, he saw a blind man from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, teacher, who sinned? Because that's the whole point. Because somebody sinned. And you say, nah. Because that's the first question you need to ask when you start seeing defects in your children. When you start seeing defects in your thought process. When you start seeing defects in your decision making. When you start seeing defects in your heart and your mind when it comes to how you love and show compassion and humility and Aydah and Nuah and Anah. When you start seeing defects in this, you need to say, and he passed by because Yahuwah passed him by. He saw a man blind from birth. And you say, why your sight off, your iron? Because all of them start with iron. Anu, Abad, Aden, Abri, Anua, Anu. It all started with an iron. He said, are you blind? As he passed by, he saw a blind man from birth. And his disciples asked him, teacher, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Yahushua answered, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of Elohim might be displayed in him. In him. That's the only reason you blind. He said, why we ain't never know who Yahushua was? Why we ain't never know his commandments, his Torah? Why we ain't never know? Guess what? We must work the works of him who sent us while it is day. Now you see why he darkened in the clear day. Because all the works they were doing was swindling and extortion, robbery, swimming in the poor, the needy, you're not giving proper mishpat, the virgins and the young men fainting for thirst. They ain't giving the proper information. And everybody's only waiting for the sun to go down and waiting for these things so they can make the shekel great and ephah small. Not caring about just balance of just ephah and just mazon. They don't care anymore. And then when Yahushua passes by, just like he's doing here, he said, I must work the work while it's day, because the sun comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber. But say if Yahushua said, you know what, I'm going to stop at noon. And I'm going to stop, and I ain't going to go work the rest of the day. And guess what happened? Your wages get cut in half. Half are going to die, because the wages of sin is death, and half going to live. Just like he supposed to execute judgment from what? From the morning all the way to the evening, right? But if he stopped at noon, then guess what happened? Those who are supposed to get judged in the evening going to die. Just like the sun don't shine over plants for a full day, they're not going to grow. And that's what we're going into now. Because he's going to cut the sun in half. And it's going to get longer to the longer and longer night. And the daytime will get shorter and shorter. And get what it says. And while it is day, and night is coming when no one can work. That's why he said, I'm going to darken in the 6th hour. Why do you think he said that in the book of Amos 8? Because the people are swindling each other. During the daytime, he's like, I got to darken and clear. I got to cut your ways in half. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. That's the only way. Because as long as Yahushua in the world, he the light of the world. He the sun, he the Shamash. But guess what? Having said these things, he spit on the ground and made mud with his saliva, and then he anointed the man's eyes with mud and said to him, go wash in the pool of Siloam. So he went and washed, and he came back seeing. Why? Because that's the whole point. That's why he darkened the clear day. Because he knows that people ain't going to prosper like they were before. Because this is the whole point, right? So this is the book of Bereshit chapter 1 verse 26. Bereshit chapter 1 verse 26. Bereshit chapter 1. Actually, Bereshit chapter 2. Actually, no. Bereshit chapter 3 and verse 18. Actually, go to verse... Yeah, Bereshit chapter 2 and verse 15. Bereshit chapter 2 and verse 15. Genesis chapter 2 verse 15. Yahuwah Elohim took the man and put him in the Gan of Eden to work it and keep it. To work and keep it. Shamar and Abad. And Yahuwah Elohim showed the man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the Gan, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. When we said seek good and not evil, right? Because who's supposed to have the knowledge of good and evil? The clean and the unclean. The just and the unjust. Who's supposed to have that? The judge. The mishpat. The one who executing justice. The head. That's who's supposed to have the knowledge of good and evil. Because you know why? Because he had to judge between good and evil. You bring the hard cases, you take the small ones, I take the large cases. Because you know why? Because you got to have knowledge of good and evil to judge. Get what he says. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. He said you're going to die. Because once you gain this intellect on the judgment between the good and the evil, they're going to kill you. They're going to kill you. Just like they killed Yahushua. You know why? Because he says, if your works and your deeds are evil. And you know when you tell people the truth, just like in Ukanan chapter 8 says, you seek to kill me, a man who told you the truth, you're going to surely die. And guess what? Then Yahuwah Elohim said, it is not good that man should be alone. He's like, man, look at here. First of all, don't eat that. You don't want to be no judge. And if you become a judge, just understand you're going to surely die. Don't do that. Here you go. Get your wife. Here you go, Aisha. Hey, here you go. Then Yahuwah Elohim said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. But guess what he said? And I will make him a helper fit for him. Now out of the ground Elohim formed every beast of the field and every bird of the Shamaim and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called every living creature, that was his name. And the man gave names to all livestock and to the birds of the Shamaim and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper fit for him. So Yahuwah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, a tardema. And while he slept, took one of his ribs and closed up his flesh place of his flesh, and the rib that Yahuwah Elohim had taken from the man, he made into a Isha and brought her to the man. And the man said, this is at last bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. He's like, look at here. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because you know what that's going to bring. Here go some other animals in name, and here go an Isha. Because the day you eat that tree, you're going to die. Because once you become a judge, understand. Because understand. Because people don't want to understand it. Because once you become a shafat, a mishpat, and you become a Dan, like Dan name means judge. When you start doing that, understand. This is at last bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called Isha, because she was taken out of the man. He ain't no judge right here. He ain't no judge. He ain't judging nobody. He ain't got no type of intellect to judge nobody, right? He just a nice, wholesome human being with no judgment in his tongue for no one. Especially with evil people. When you start judging evil people, just understand they come with evil back. Understand that. They're not going to be coming with no good to you. It says, verse 24, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. He's like, man, y'all can be one. You can have a great life. And yet what it says, and the man and his wife were both naked, were not ashamed. He said, it's bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. But guess what happens? This Bereshit 3:1. Now the serpent, Nakash, was more crafty than any other beast of the field that Yahuwah Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, did Elohim actually say you should not eat of the tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, Nakash, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but Yahuwah said, Elohim said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. Because you know what's going to happen when you become a judge. When you start declaring that men and women deeds are evil, what you think going to happen to you? But the serpent said to the woman, you should not surely die. Ain't nothing going to happen to you. And Satan, that's how Satan whole baby thing. Man, please, ain't nothing going to happen to you. Don't worry about that. And it says, for Elohim knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open. He said, man, you're going to be able to see good and evil. And you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. Then you're going to be just like your father. Yahuwah Elohim, knowing good and evil. You know what did Yahuwah do? He said, I mean, I changed not. Yahuwah said, I'm going to pass by. I'm going to use my back parts. Ain't nobody has seen my face and lived. And you know what they're going to do when they hate you without a cause? They hate him who reproves in the gate. Because when you understand knowledge of good and evil, they're going to hate you who reproves in the gate. They're going to hate your everlasting guts. And you know when people hate you and envy you and jealous of you, they're going to kill you. And get what it says. And you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. So the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to desire to make one wise. She took of its fruit and ate, and she gave some to her husband who was with her. He's like, man, look what you done did. You know what you just did? You just made two judges. Now you're a judge now. Now you become a certain way. And get what it says. And he ate. And then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. He's like, now you become a judge now. Now you can see. Now you mishpat. You judging between what's naked and what's not naked. Now you can see the difference. Before you ain't know. Once you know, then ignorance perishes. Once you know, then ignorance perishes. Now you know. And guess what? And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. Why? Because they can judge between being clothed and not clothed. Because that's the judgment. You're naked. Indecent exposure. $250 fine. Think about a burden. That's a burden now. Now you're obligated to tell people when they're doing evil. And if you hold it in, let what's supposed to happen to him happen to you. You know what that is? Death. So you sure you want to know? He that hears the voice of swearing and don't say it, he said, you'll bear your iniquity. You'll bear it. You sure you want to know? Oh, you heard the gossip and the slander, and you don't say nothing about what you heard? Bear your iniquity. Because it's evil. And you're obligated. You're going to surely die. And it says, then the eyes of them were open, and they knew they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. And then they heard the sound of Yahuwah walking in the Gan in the cool of the day. Man, it was early in the morning. What time did Mashiach go to do the judgment? He started early in the morning. In the cool of the day. Isn't that what Yahushua did in the temple? He came from the mountain and he started praying. We talked about last week, he went into the temple and they brought the hard matter. We caught this woman in the very act of adultery. What do you say? Mr. Understanding of Good and Evil? Mrs. Understanding of Good and Evil? You senator? You ancient one? What do you say? Now you say you want to know. And it says, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah Elohim amongst the trees of the Gan. Why? Because you hide your face from the judge. It was like a man whom men hide their faces from. Because you already know that Yahushua Mashiach, will get ready to judge. You little judge. You know how you say these little judges hide from the big judge. The large matter judge. Not the small matter judge. This is a small matter that he getting ready to judge. Now this is a very large matter that he getting ready to judge. Right? This is the large matter. The small one was with Ku'ul, with the serpent, Nakad. That was a small matter for her to judge, but she couldn't do the small matter. And he says, but Yahuwah Elohim called to the man and said to him, where are you? Oh, he called the man first. Oh, you know why? Let me show you. This is Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 1. Because there's a reason why he did that. 22 and 5. This is Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 5. A woman shall not wear a man's garment. That's why he called to the man first. Neither, it said, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whosoever does these things is an abomination to Yahuwah, your Elohim. He said, why are you calling to the man first? Right? The word for Deuteronomy 22:5, Deuteronomy chapter 22 and 5, Dabarim, Deuteronomy chapter 22 and 5, that word for Deuteronomy chapter 22 and 5, it says, the woman shall not wear that which pertaineth, right? That word for pertaineth is keli. It says any apparatus, a vessel, a weapon, artillery, carriage, furnish, right? Anything you clothe yourself with. Armor, bearer, right? It also means dress. It says dress. Anything they dress themselves in, right? It says artillery. It says pertaineth unto a man, of a gabar, a warrior. That word for man is gabar, a valiant man, a warrior, a person simply, everyone, a mighty man. He said you should not wear that, you should not be wearing nothing that can pertain to a warrior, a mighty man. you know why it says a mighty man. Neither shall a man, you say a warrior. That word for man is gebar, warrior, put on, or you say labash, or clothe himself in what? In a nashim's simlah. Simlah. That word for simlah is a mantle. It says an idea of covering and assuming the shape of an object beneath, a dress, especially a mantle, clothed garment. Right? People say, oh, it's a dress, right? What you call anything a woman puts on. That's feminine in nature. It ain't, you shouldn't be in the women's section at the store buying in the women's section. Right? It's the reason why it's in the women's section. Just like they have in the men's section, they have the men's section. Right? But then now they're putting the women's stuff in the men's section, and the men's section, and the women in the men's section, and the other section. Right? There's all types of mix-ups. But these are all up for debate, because that's what everybody wants to do, is debate. It's just like when you go to a school, a certain school has a dress code. Right? You respect the dress code of the school. Because everybody's dress code ain't the same. It's just like when you go to a certain place, and they have a dress code for a certain culture. Some people won't even talk to you unless you have the dress code on of that culture. So therefore, respect the culture. Why? Because a lot of people don't like you showing up to their dinner table. Right? You go to a certain place and you show up, you know, guess what? A lot of people don't respect you. But at the same time, why did I say this? Going back to Bereshit Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Bereshit chapter 3 and verse 1. Bereshit chapter 3 and verse 1. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that Elohim had made. Skipping down to verse 7. And then the eyes of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. He said they made loincloths. They covered themselves up, because that's what they thought. Because they can judge between themselves. And they heard the sound of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah and Elohim among the trees of the garden. But Yahuwah called to the man and said to him, "Where art thou?" And he said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked and I hid myself." He said, I wasn't even clothed properly. I wasn't even clothed properly. Matter of fact, they clothed themselves with loincloths. You think he was thinking, he ain't learned how to judge properly yet. I don't think I should be wearing a loincloth, because I don't think that's good for me to do in the presence of Yahuwah, to wear a loincloth when he comes to judge. And then she got on a loincloth. They both had the same clothes on. But why he had the same clothes on she had on? Because at first they were both naked, which means that Deuteronomy 22:5, nobody was trying to distinguish between good and evil, because they were both two people with the same, he said, acknowledge the judge between what's right and what's wrong, but then they both got the same clothes on. And she got on the loincloth and they got on loincloth. He was like, man, let me hide from Yahuwah, because we need to be judged properly. Because it's a large matter. And we don't know what to wear. Because the woman led me to this behavior, so now she's leading me and she's dressing me. And now he got on things pertaining to a woman. And now she got on things pertaining, she got on her garments, but he got on things that pertain to a woman. And now he need to be clothed properly. And Yahuwah getting ready to set everything in order, because this is a large matter. Because now he has a knowledge between good and evil. And he has a judge between two and two. Because it didn't exist before. In their mind. And guess what? And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree which I commanded you not to eat? The man said, the woman whom you gave me to be with me. She gave me from the fruit of the tree and I ate. Matter of fact, I even put the same clothes on she got. I got the same stuff she got on too. And guess what? And then Yahuwah said to the woman, what is this that you have done? Why are you leading the man and dressing him up and giving him the bar and giving him the transgress and doing things that I told him not to do? Why are you doing that? And guess what he said? The woman said, the serpent Chdsh deceived me and I ate. And he made me a judge between good and evil. Now you're a judge. And you don't know how to judge properly. And guess what? Satan punched you in the neck, in your gut, in your stomach. He taking seeds out of your mind, putting his seed. You don't know how to judge properly. And guess what? You ain't mishpat in the gate. Mishpat ain't in the gate. That's what Yahushua doing right here. And he passing by and establishing mishpat in the gate. Because he's still in the gate. He's still in the gun too. And guess what? The serpent deceived me and I ate. And Yahuwah says to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and above all beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life, because you made them into judges. You know good and evil, and you know good and well they weren't ready to be no judge and nobody. You made judges of the lowest of the people. You made judges of the lowest of the people. And now look at them. They all confused and don't know what to do because you did it, and they weren't ready to be no judge or nobody. They weren't ready, because you know when you take on that, he said you must be ready to die then. You must be ready for death, because that's what's gonna happen to you. You ain't gonna live long. You ain't gonna have to understand. In this life, you're supposed to be immortal. You said once you start judging people, man, your life might be 33 years long. You might not even live that long. You may not even live that long, man. They're gonna take you out. Guess what it says? It was, I will put enmity, hatred between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring, the life givers and the deceivers. And he will bruise your head. And you shall bruise his heel. But you know what happens when they lift up? He said, "Man, one of y'all lifted up your heel against me," because he already trying to tell you. He's trying to get people to understand. Yahushua was trying to get people to understand what situation they were in when they were taking Pesach, when he was passing by, when Yahuwah was passing by. He was trying to get you to understand this is the judgment and this is me, the serpent. You need to understand I'm that serpent that was on the ground that caused you to know good and evil. And you didn't even know it. And I gave you the knowledge of good and evil that you may be judges of the world and sitting upon 12 thrones judging the 12 tribes of Yasharal. And I'm that serpent in the garden. What did you do to us? You literally put us in a position where these people might take us out. All that immersion Yahushua had put him on, he said, say what? And he shall bruise his head, you shall bruise his heel. And to the woman he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. It's a bone, and it shall bring forth children. Skipping over. There's a lot more in there, but here we go. Going to verse 20. 3 and 20. And the man called his wife Qahalath because she was the mother of all living. And Yahuwah said to the man, and Yahuwah Elohim made for Adam and his wife garments of skin and clothed them. He's like, man, look at here. Let me judge between good and evil. What you got on right now, being that you ate from that tree, is evil. Right? You don't need to be wearing that especially when you realize you're naked and you got on loincloths, man, there's some things getting ready to happen in the parts where you covered up. I mean, you're gonna need something bigger than that to cover yourself up, man. Because before it wasn't proper. And he gave them garments of skin and clothed them. He put an extra layer on top of them. And then what did he do? Then Elohim said, behold, the man has become like one of us. One of what? A judge. A judge. Knowing good and evil. A judge. Now, lest he reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat, he will live forever. He a judge. He's going to be an immortal judge. But being that he transgressed, he get the penalty, he get to die. He has to die. He can't get immortal. He can't be an immortal judge until he dies. Because the small matters are for this life. That's for the non-immortal people. And when you go to the next life, you're going to be judging Malachi, immortal beings. You now become a judge. But if you don't know justice and you ain't got mishpat in the gate, how you going to know what to judge properly? You ain't going to be able to judge. Therefore, the Yahuwah Elohim sent him out of the Gan of Aydah. He done got him out the gate. He said it was in the gate. And he established mishpat back in the gate. And then he got him out the gate. Now they outside the gate. That's where we are right now. That's where we are right now. And guess what? To work the ground from which he was taken. Now he's saying, now you're going to work. Because before he said, now you're going to work. Before you was Shamar and Aydah. You were guarding and keeping it. Now you were the head. How you say it? You were the head of the whole garden, which means that you were guarding and keeping it. You wasn't working the ground. You were guarding and keeping it, which means that you were ordering other things around. But now you done fell all the way down. Now you're outside the gate, and now you got to work the ground. Now you become a slave. And he drove out the man at the east of the Garden of Eden. He placed the cherubim with the flaming sword to turn every way to guard the way of the tree of life. Now he guarding what? I'm guarding the tree of life. Because he was able to eat from that tree. There was no commandment to say he couldn't. There was no commandment to say he couldn't either. There wasn't no commandment. That's why he had put that in Malachi. Because he can freely eat from it. We can. Who got to keep that Malachi there? We can freely eat from that tree. But you have to be in a certain state in order to eat from that tree. And the only way you're going to eat from that tree, you got to have, how you say, no sin and no deceit in your heart, in your mind, and in your body. That's the only way you're going to eat from it. You could be a judge and not have those things inside of you. You can still judge people with having sin and deceit in your heart. And people say, no, you can't. People do it all the time out here. What are you talking about? We do it all the time. People say, oh, I don't judge without having, you still have sin and you still have deceit. So therefore you still judge. So what's the difference? People still do it today. Why do you think Yahushua said, which one of you convinced me of sin? Which one of you convinced me of sin, right? So this is the book of, it's a whole nother perspective, right? It's a whole nother, here we go. This is the book of Proverbs chapter 14. Proverbs chapter 14. Actually, Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 23. Actually, verse 22. Proverbs 14, 22. Do not go astray. Do they not go astray who devise evil? Have that evil eye? Isn't that what Qahalath did? You know when the Kosh convinced the Qahalath to do? They go astray, man. You see what happened? But guess what? Those who devise good, notice we just had good and evil in here. Because you just ate from the knowledge of the tree. You're a judge. You're judging between good and evil. You're a judge now. Because you weren't supposed to have the knowledge. Because you wasn't ready for it. But now you got it. And now you have to learn it. For its everlasting too late. Do they not go astray who devise evil? Do they not? We can see it all around. You can see it in your own nature. When you do evil, you go astray from Yahuwah. You go astray from his mind. You go astray from his character. You go astray from your humility. You go astray from tranquility. You go astray from that. It's clearly evident because you can judge between good and evil. Those who devise good meet steadfast love and faithfulness. You can judge that. When you walk with love and a heart in your heart for yourself and for other people and everything, then guess what? Steadfast love and faithfulness will never forsake you. Do not lean to your own understanding. Let steadfast love and faithfulness, let it not forsake you. Verse 23, in all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. He's like, you talk too much, he's like, okay, it only tends only to poverty. Like, but it says, in toil, because there's a labor not for the meat which perishes, labor for the meat that endures unto everlasting life. Labor for the food. Why? Because that food is going to allow you to judge properly in everlasting life. And it gets you in everlasting life when you judge between in this world from good to evil. You got to know it. The crown of the wise is their wealth. Big giant stock portfolios and big houses and all these things is their wealth. Giant cryptocurrency deposits and residual income is their wealth. 401ks and all these things are your wealth. The crown of the wise is their wealth. But the folly of fools brings folly. Because that's what happens. Folly brings folly, and wisdom brings wealth. But guess what happens? A truthful witness saves lives. See, now you start to see all these things. When you got to be a truthful witness, you can't be a false witness. You're trying to save people's life. Because I told you, once you get the knowledge of good and evil, you're obligated to know. And once you're a witness to things that were evil. And some of these evil things that people have done deserve death. And if you're not going to be a truthful witness and say what you saw, then you're going to be obligated to that person that dies, and then that sin going to be on you. And guess what's going to happen to you in the next life? Because you were the witness that could have saved their life. And you didn't say anything. So therefore, you are the person that is guilty. Because you could have saved that innocent person's life, and you ain't say nothing. You could have. You could have saved them all types of slander, hatred, jealousy, envy. You could have saved them things that are worse than death. Because all these things are worse than death itself. You could have saved them from that just by being an honest witness and saying, hey, this is how it went, this is how it happened. And that person would have never got slandered all throughout the whole world because of you. I know what really happened. So the year ain't say nothing. So who you, if you say, how do these plagues be coming on? Like, why you who be doing stuff? Because of those things, the little small things that we be doing. And we be thinking like, yeah, we know, I know the knowledge of good and evil. I judge properly, I can do that. But then you're a witness to something that is causing somebody else hurt. And it's all slander and gossip and lying. And then you can say, no, that's not true. And you can say that person from that within themselves. It says, a truthful witness saves lies, but the one who breathes out lies is deceitful. Now you see why he said he did no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. Now you think Yahushua was like that. He had no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. A lot of people got deceit. Do not lie one to another. You know what Colossians chapter 3 says? Because it's going to create more death. It creates death. Lies create death. And that death's going to be, all these deaths going to be on you in the next life on the day of judgment. Guess what? In the fear of Yahuwah, one has strong confidence. But he say, when you have the fear of Yahuwah, you got, man, look at here. I don't want, look at here. That's why you can't play around with the scribes and the Pharisees, both male and female. The fear of Yahuwah is of Yahuwah, one has strong confidence, and in his children will have a refuge. You can't be a false witness. You got to be a truthful witness. And you can't breathe out lies and deceit, because all these things are a part of what? What's inside of you. Because you give birth to lies. You're giving birth to lies. You're having children. It's like having intercourse with an unseen being and having children with an unseen being. And you sleeping around in an unseen being, and then you know what happens in the unseen world, in the demonic world, they create children inside of you, and those children come out birthed out of your mouth, and it's all death and lies. People say you can't have intercourse with a spirit. Yes, you can. It says, verse 26. In the fear of Yahuwah, it says, in the fear of Yahuwah, one has strong confidence. In his children there's refuge. The fear of Yahuwah is a fountain of life. It's a fountain. The one that one may turn away from the snares of death, sin. You may turn away from the snares of death. You know what he just said? It's a fountain of life. How do you think you're going to put out Satan in the garden? Why do you think he was convincing them to eat the knowledge of the good and evil? To bring death on them. Because you know what happens? Now you're able to judge between good and evil. And now you have the knowledge of good and evil. And now you understand what the snares of death are. And now you understand what the fountain of life is. And now you may turn away from the fountain of death. And he said the snares of death. Because there's so many snares now to where now you can discern between good and evil. And now you're a judge. And you become like one of Yahuwah Elohim and the Malachim in the world today. And guess what? In a multitude of people is the kabod of a king. But without people, a prince is ruined. Because he ain't got no people to praise his name. Because we ain't got the Nasi, ain't got nobody around. Who gonna be like, oh yeah, you a prince? What good is a prince without people around? But guess what happens? Whosoever is slow to anger has great understanding. Think about it. When Yahuwah was in the garden and he saw all the transgression, did he get angry? When he executed judgment on the Nakash, on Adam and Yahuwah, did he get angry? He didn't get angry at all. He just spoke the words and what was going to happen to them because you did these things. Being that you didn't know about intercourse and sex, cool. Understand, Adam gonna touch you, and you ain't gonna be able to contain yourself, and it's gonna be over, and you gonna have some children. Y'all gonna have some intercourse now, because Adam, you ain't gonna be able to contain yourself once he touch you. And then when you have children, it's gonna be hurting. You're gonna have so much pain. I'm sorry, but that's just the punishment of knowing good and evil. And then Adam, you're gonna have to work the ground to feed your children. You're gonna have to get the things you need to feed them children, the children too. And you have to work the ground. Because you became a judge now, and now you don't got all these things and it's knowledge and understanding. And y'all ain't gonna be able to contain yourself like you think you are. And y'all gonna be having some kids, some children. Because you wasn't supposed to know it in the first place. But being that Satan and Kosh want to get you in the tangle with the Leviathan, because that's what it is. That's what the Leviathan is. The Leviathan is sexual intercourse. You know, the snake going into the other snake mouth. The snake mouth opening and then the tail part going inside. That is sexual intercourse. The Leviathan, Lahuyathan, that is it. In the multitude of people, and that's just how you say keep it down on the rated thing, but that's exactly what it is. People don't want to talk about that, but that's exactly what it is. And it says, whosoever in the multitude of people is kabod of the king, but whosoever But without people, a prince is ruined. Whosoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is hasty in temper exalts folly. Boy, it's gonna be. How you think a wise woman tear down? A wise woman build a house, but folly tears it down to the ground. How you think folly hide? Temper. Because you got the knowledge of good and evil. Now you got to control your anger, just like Yahuwah did in the garden when he was judging. You got to now control your anger now. You got to control your anger, and you can't allow that to get emotional. You can't allow yourself to get over emotional. Just like Mashah had to talk down Yahuwah from killing everybody. Now you got to control your anger, just like Yahuwah does. Because if you don't, you're going to tear down everything. You're going to destroy everything. Just like Yahuwah was about to destroy the children of Yasharal. He said, but your name, Yahuwah. What are they going to say about your name? And the woman don't think about, what are they going to say about my family and my household and my husband's name? They don't think about that. When they get angry and they want to just execute judgment. Because you ain't got control of your anger. Because you got the knowledge of good and evil, but you still can't judge properly within yourself. And you have no self-control, and your fruit of the Ruach ain't there. That's why you need the Ruach. People say, I don't need the Ruach. Yes, you do. If you ain't got the Ruach, you're going to tear down everything in your path. It ain't gonna be like, let me put my right hand over you and cover you and show you my back part. You finna destroy everything, including Mashah. Right, that's over people's head. Right, this is what I want. Verse 30. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, right? It gives life to the, you know what Qahalath name means? Mother of all living. It's mother of all living. That's what her name is. But envy makes bones rot. Now he say bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She called it shot. But now, if he bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, and she started to have envy in her heart, then it's gonna make my bones rot. And you're gonna rot. It makes your bones rot. Because you connected to him. Why do you think Adam, when as soon as he ate from the tree, you would say death? He said, from dust thou shall return. Moof. You know why he said, and he said, you shall surely die, moof, because this is both for Adam and Qahalath. Moof. You both gonna die. Because that's all a part of it. Verse 31, whosoever oppresses the poor insults his maker. Now you see why in the book of Amos, in the book of Micah, he talk about you oppressing the poor and the needy, and you causing them to cease. You kind of destroy them in the gate, making the shekel great and the ephah small. Now you insulted Yahuwah himself. But you know what Yahuwah does? In the time of your ignorance, he winked. Because you know a prudent man, he ignores an insult. As we spoke about last week. He ignored it. I winked at it. Yeah, you know, I realize you're only flesh. But in the time of your ignorance, I winked. But now I'm commanding every man, every woman, and child to repent. Because children even swindle people now. They go to school with their book bag, and then they put all the things that only cost 5 cents. They be selling for like $82, $3. And they be like, man, they swindling out of everybody. And then you know what they do? They bring the revenue back to your house, and then you be thinking like Yahuwah gonna barak you. He's like, man, he gonna barak us. They just put a whole bunch of interest on the candy that they stole from the store, and then they put the interest on the candy and the stuff, and they sell it at school for $5 a piece when they stole it for free, and then they bring the revenue back to your house, and then you'd be thinking Yahuwah gonna barak you in your household. No. It don't work like that. That's what people doing today. Right? They hate him when reproves in the gate. He said, they're going to hate you. They're going to hate you when you start saying this. They're going to hate your everlasting guts. Because you know why? Because now it destroys their revenue. And you know what happened when they destroy it? When you start messing with people's revenue, you're going to be like Shaul and Silas when they messed with that little girl when she was getting revenue by her divination. Then them people brought them to court, delivered them over to the judge, and they were cast into prison. Because they hate him who reproves in the gate. They abhor him who speaks the truth. This is the whole point of this whole life. People saying why? Because this is the whole point. Whoever oppresses the poor man, he said, why I say that? Because he said, because in the sins of your youth, he was like, man, I remember when we did that. He said, hey, I was a youth. Yeah, we all were youth. And you know what, he said, you know what you did when you were young. He said, I ain't never did that. I said, okay. You know the sins of your youth. And people say, no, I don't know the sins of my youth. Yes, you do. He said, you ain't never repent for it either. Verse 31, whosoever oppresses a poor man insults his maker, but he who is generous to the needy honors him. Now you see why. When you start, you say, now you're generous to the needy, the poor, now you honoring him. And he say, honoring, where is my honor? You know how he talks about Malachi? We talked about Malachi. He said, you withhold tithes and now you bring me food in my house, there may be food in my house. Because you can honor the poor and the needy and the hungry and those who don't have anything. The wicked is overthrown through his evil doings. Now you see why. But the righteous finds refuge in his death. Uh-oh. For the wages of sin is death. How do we think we found refuge in Yahuwah? Through Yahushua Mashiach's death. He was literally the wicked overthrown through his evil doing. Right? But the righteous finds refuge in his death. Why? Because he bore all our sin and our transgression and our evil doing. And then when he died, we found refuge in him. You can't say Yahuwah is my strength. Yahuwah or Yasha, Yadeh Yahuwah, Ma'uz Kabakah, Yahuwah is the stronghold of my life. You got no refuge when Yahushua Mashiach until Yahushua Mashiach died. You didn't have, Yahuwah is my light and my salvation. You didn't have no salvation until Yahushua died. And then he gave you salvation, and you now can find refuge from the storms, from the winds, and the waves, and the floods. And when Yahuwah passed by with his kabod, he'll cover you with his right hand in the rocks. And guess what? You find refuge through his death. And he's going to be gracious to you. In that way we just read in the book of Amos in Exodus chapter 33. That's how you get calm. Through his death. Verse 33, wisdom rests in the heart of a man of understanding. Here we go. A man or woman in the heart of understanding. But it makes itself known even in the midst of fools. He said, even in the midst of fools, it'll still make itself known. Even a person will follow. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is the reproach of any people. Because when you get that reproach on you, reproach of them, reproach thee, Yahuwah, fell on Yahushua. But when Yahushua already done died and rose, so you got reproached now after Yahushua died, understand you bear your reproach. You bear your sin, and you bear your own reproach. And you got to carry your own load. But you can still be saved. But when judgment come on you, once you commit sin, you got to bear that reproach until you die. Because Yahushua already bore the reproach. Because the more you sin, the more reproach you get on you. And then when the more reproach you get on you, then you know what happens after that? You're going to be too hard to carry. Because you're going to end up dying early. Because you got to carry so much stuff. That's why you got to cast that stuff away. And just bear your punishment. But guess what? Verse 35, a servant who deals wisely has the king's favor. But his wrath falls on the one who acts shamefully. And this is the whole point of this whole thing. He said act shamefully. Why? Because all this is a part of it. Right, so this book of Sirach. This is the book of Sirach. I think it's chapter 32. The book of Sirach. Book of Sirach, chapter 30, and verse Book of Sirach chapter 30 and verse 20. Actually 30 and 15. Health and a good state of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth, right? We talk about infinite wealth. He said, I'd rather have infinite riches, right? But he said, your health and a strong body is above all of that. But guess what it says? There is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of heart. Death is better than a bitter life. He said, death is better than a bitter life. Why? Because now you're not able to judge between good and evil. You now become a judge. He said death is better than that, than a bitter life. Because you know what happens when you get bitter? You turn into something. And guess what? And it says, or continual sickness. Death is better than continual sickness in a bitter life. To be bitter about your life and other people's life, and to have continual sickness, he said death is better than that. Delicates poured out upon a mouth shut up are as messes of meat set upon a grave. He said, remember what it says, going skipping over the verse. I should just keep going. It said, what good doeth the offering of an idol unto an idol? What good is that? For neither can it eat nor smell, so is he that is persecuted of Yahuwah. He said, what good is that? He said, you can't eat or smell, so is he that is persecuted of Yahuwah. What good is, he said, what good doeth it the offering to an idol? For it neither can eat or smell, so is he that is persecuted of Yahuwah. Because you know what you're going to be doing? You're going to be eating nothing. You ain't going to be smelling no good food. You ain't going to be eating nothing, because you're going to be fasting and praying in sackcloth and ashes, and your ashes is going to be your food, and your tears going to be your drink. Because Yahuwah is going to be persecuting you, because you worship an idol. He's going to be acting and executing judgment on you. And he ain't going to be, and you know what's going to happen after that? He seeth with his eyes and groaneth as a eunuch that embraces a virgin and sigheth. He's like, you can't even do nothing. You can't even do nothing once you hood. It's like a eunuch who embraced a virgin and he can't do nothing because he swore that he ain't gonna do nothing. He's like, you a virgin? You're a eunuch, you abstaining from the marriage bed? He's like, you touch a virgin? He's like, that's what it's like when you worship an idol. You can't, when Yahuwah start persecuting you, he's like, you can't even do nothing. You can't even do nothing. Give not over thy mind to heaviness. Now you see why it says, cast all your cares upon me, for he cares for you. Lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily besets you. Don't give yourself over to heaviness. Because remember, we read in the book of Exodus when Messiah would go judge, and Jethro said, this is heavy for you. This would be too heavy for you. Give thy mind over to heaviness. That's why he was trying to stop Adam and Qahalath in the garden from doing. Giving their mind over to heaviness and knowing what sin is and all these things, and they ended up getting it. When Adam had sin, he found out we naked. And guess what? He couldn't say he was a eunuch because he had it in the shower. And when he embraced that, he said that virgin woman, you know what happens? But get what he said. He seeth with his eyes and groaneth as a eunuch that embraces a virgin and sigheth, right? Give not over thy mind to heaviness, and afflict not thyself with thine own counsel. And that's what happens. He said, don't afflict yourself to your own counsel. He says, and you know what, in heaviness, give your mind over to heaviness. Why? Because it's a hard matter. Because it's a hard matter. Because when it's a large matter, and you doing small matters, but when it's a large matter, you're going to be doing it in your own counsel. You're like, no, I need to get this large matter over to Yahushua Mashiach. This other matter, and it's too heavy for me. Because you got the knowledge between good and evil. You're a judge now. You now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And guess what happens? The gladness of the heart is the life of man, and the joyfulness of a man prolongeth his days. That's why he was trying to stop Adam and Qahalath from finding out the knowledge of good and evil. He was trying to keep them in joy, in gladness. He was trying to prolong their days and make them live long. And guess what? They lived 930 years. Because as soon as they got that heaviness and unnecessary things and start doing things, guess what happens? The gladness of heart is the life of man, and the joyfulness of a man prolongeth his days. Why you think it happens? Love thine own soul and comfort thine heart. Remove sorrow far from thee. Now you see why Yahushua said, I'm a man of sorrow. He was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief for us. That he may remove sorrow and heaviness from us, that we may have joy and love and ahab inside of us. For sorrow have killed many. It does. Sorrow can kill you. Why do you think it happened to Yahushua? He was a judge. He was real heavy for him. He bore all our sin and our transgressions. He was real heavy. He was heavy. And that's what happens when you bear all these burdens and all these things on your life. When you start committing sin, it makes you heavy, and your life will be shortened. When you start doing things, opposite of what the bar says, it gets heavy, and now you lose your life. Your life gets shortened. It says, love thine own soul and comfort thy heart. Remove sorrow far from thee, for sorrow have killed many. It'll kill you for the wages of sin. He's like, the day you eat of it, Adam, you're going to surely die. Yahushua was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. He had to judge all these people. He had to bear all their sin. And guess what? He died early too. He said, Adam, man, I was trying to save you from that. I was trying to save you from that death. I was trying to save you from that. But then you know what happened? Now you have to discern between good and evil and what's sorrowful for you. Now you got to figure out what to cast away. Before you didn't have to worry all about that. But guess what? And there is no profit therein. He's saying ain't no profit in having sorrow for your whole life. Ain't no profit. All they're going to do is kill you. It's just going to kill you. That's why you don't need to have, he said, don't have no heaviness on your mind. Because that's what knowledge of good and evil does. It puts heaviness on your mind. And you know what else it does? Especially if you ain't ready for it. Verse 24, envy and wrath shortens the life. Not only it shortens the life, it rots the bones. So if a woman has envious of her husband, it rots the bones. It'll shorten her life and his life. And they'll die early. If she's jealous of her husband, it's going to rot his bones. And guess what? It's going to kill her too. If you got sorrow in your heart, it's going to kill y'all. If you all are heavy, you got sin, lay aside the sin that so easily besets us. Lay aside the weights. If you heavy, guess what's going to happen? You heavy with sin, it's going to shorten your life. It says, for envy and wrath shortens life, and carefulness bringeth age before time. Then you say, man, why people look like that? It brings age before time. He said, man, you shouldn't be looking at, oh, how are you? You must be real heavy. You must be real sorrowful. You must be you got a lot of envy and jealousy, don't you? And guess what it says? A cheerful and good heart will have care of his food and diet. Now you see why he told Adam and Qahalath? He said, don't you eat from that tree. The day you eat of it, you're going to surely die. You need to be real careful what you put in your food. Why do you think they put all this stuff in our food? Because they're trying to make you real heavy. Then you got sorrow. Then you're envious and jealous of the people who are in shape. And then you die. Because you ain't careful about what you put in your body. And you know what happens? They say in the Ruach, man, then you'll find yourself doing it in the natural. Because nothing was made from things that are seen. Everything's made from the things that are unseen. So what you see on the outside is exactly what you have on the inside. Everything you see on the outside of you is what you put on the inside of you. And that could be words, food, or anything else. And those things create and shorten your life. And you know what it says? You have the knowledge of good and evil. And now being that you have the knowledge of good and evil, they hate you who proves in the gate. Matter of fact, it'll shorten your life. For the day you eat of it, you're going to surely die, because now you're a judge. You're a judge now. This is the Yukonon chapter 8. John chapter 8, we almost finished. John chapter 8. John chapter 8. And verse 34. John chapter 8, verse 34. Yukonon chapter 8 and verse 34. Yahushua answered them, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. Now you're a slave. The slave does not remain in the house forever. Did Adam stay in the garden forever? He made him a slave. He said, you're going to work until the ground. And now you see why people go into slavery. Because you're a servant of sin. So therefore you go into slavery. Some people desire to go back to slavery so bad, they'll just purposely become a slave to sin. And wrath and anger and resentment and bitterness and hatred and jealousy and envy, just so they can go back and be a slave to what they were doing before. Because they're a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever. He said, man, you ain't going to stay in the house forever. Why are you going? And he says, the son remains forever. He said, the son. So if the son sets you free, so who in charge of that? Who in charge of the vineyard? Who in charge of the house? Yahushua is. You will be free indeed. I know that you are the offspring of Abraham, yet you seek to kill me. Why? Because now why? Because the man has become one of us, knowing good and evil. I know you seek to kill me. Why? Because the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. For it's the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. That's what he ate from. He just like his father. He knows the knowledge of good and evil. He said, the day you eat of it, you're going to surely die. Once you start judging between good and evil and you become a judge, you're going to surely die. And guess what people are going to do? I know you are of the offspring of Abraham, yet you seek to kill me, because my words find no place in you, because my judgments find no place in you. I'm judging you. My Shabath, my judgment has no place in you. Guess what it says? I speak of what I have seen with my father, because the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. My father judged. I seen my father judge before. He be judging up in the highest Shamayim. He be judging the 7 Shamayims of Rakia. He be judging the servants of the earth and the sin of the earth down to Sheol. I done watched him judge before. I'm only doing what my father did when he judged. Because the son can only do what the father do. Whatsoever the father do, the son does likewise. Or the daughter. You know what the daughter do. She says, I speak of what I have seen of my father, and you do what you have heard from your father. He's like, you see what your father and my father and your father, we tussle. And I'm the children of my father. I'm a child of my father, and you're the child of your father. And we tussling right now. You doing what you do with your father. Your father do that evil stuff. My father do this stuff. So therefore, my father judged between good and evil, and his righteous judgment. The type of judgment you all do and the things you do, you want to kill me because you're trying to get rid of me as a judge so you can continue to have your judgment established. So we got a family feud going on. We fight. You get what it says? They answer him, Abraham is our father. Yahushua said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works Abraham did. And guess what he said? But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, that you are your father Satan. And you do all the things Satan do. You breathe out lies and you breathe out false witnesses and deceit. You are not a truthful witness. You plot, you scheme, you destroy the poor and the needy. You hate each other. You trample on the poor. You trample on each other. You do the things your father do. I'm sorry, but I'm doing the things my father do. You are your father Satan. True that I heard from Elohim. This is not what Abraham did. He said, a man, you've taken to kill somebody who told you the truth that I heard from Elohim. This is not what Abraham did. Abraham, when I execute judgment on Abraham wasn't kicking back and saying, we're going to kill you. I'm going to kill you, Yahuwah. I'm going to kill you, Yahushua Mashiach. I'm going to kill you. Did he say that? Did Abraham say, I'm going to kill you? Because Yahuwah did execute judgment on his house. I'm going to kill you, Yahuwah, for telling me to pull out Hagar. I'm going to kill you. You're telling me to offer my son. Did he do that? I'm going to kill you for not giving me the heirs. I'm almost 99 years old. I ain't got no heir. I assure you. The reason why he had no heir, I assure you, it's due to a lot of other things that were going on the inside of him. People think it's a lot of other things that were going on the inside of people that you don't know about, that you can't see. But Yahuwah saw it. And he knew that they ain't had no Amunah. He knew they started complaining, mumbling, grumbling, complaining. They started to do certain things that everybody do as human nature. And when Yahuwah execute judgment on you, then it's to humble you down, to see how you operate, and see how you actually conduct yourself. And you can see, even after he had his heir, Sarah was still conducting herself a certain way, and Abraham was still conducting himself a certain way. They had emotional distraught and behavior. And he said when Yahuwah came to judge him, Abraham, this is not what Abraham did. Abraham is saying, I'm going to kill you. I ain't do that. You are doing what the works that your father did. You doing the works that your father did. They said to him, we were not born of sexual morality. He said, we ain't sleep around. We ain't born through adultery, because you know what Yahuwah do to children of adultery. We ain't born no adultery. We have one father, even Elohim. Yahushua said to them, if Elohim were your father, you would love me, for I came from my father, and I am here. I came not on my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? Why you don't understand my judgments? It is because you cannot bear to hear my debar, my judgments. You are of your father Satan, and you will do, and your will is to do your father's desire. He was a murderer from the beginning, and he does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. That's what you are. Because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell you the truth, why you do not believe me, right? Because this is all a part of it, right? So this is the book of, we're almost finished. This is the book of, all this is, it's for you. Right, so this is the book of Proverbs chapter 8, Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 1. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words and lying words stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouth of fools pours out folly. It pours out all evil and wrath and evil-eyed words. It pours these things out. The eyes of Yahuwah are in every place. The man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Why do you think your eyes of Yahuwah in every place knowing good? That's a real heavy thing to bear. To see every single thing that people do, whether it's good or evil, that's a real heavy thing to bear. That's a lot of things you know how I say, I don't want my son to have to deal with this until he's ready. I don't want my daughter to have to deal with this until they're ready. But being that Adam and Yahuwah took a part of it, they became judges too early. And then it became like, judge not, lest you be judged. Whatsoever judgment you pronounce, it's going to be measured right back to you. Because they can say that to you. When Yahushua was judging, they measured right back to him. And they try to convict him of sin. Why you see the speck? Why you see the speck that's in your brother, sister's eye, your teacher, or your mother, your father, your children's eye? You don't see the log that's in your own eye. first take it out of your own eye first. Then you see clearly and take it out of somebody else's eye. And make sure you don't be angry and wrathful when you do it. Make sure you be slow to anger. Make sure you judge properly. Because if you don't, judge not lest you be judged again. And people say, why? Because that's not how it works. The Aydah in every place, keeping watch. And then with none of us watching, we talk about that during Pesach. We always watching. Who do you think Yahuwah's eyes are? I ain't Ish Lapid. Who do you think his eyes are? You. Your 7 near, your 7 almonds. You know the almonds? Who you think? What do you think that one bowl going up 7 near? What do you think that's for? You know, you not that the Chdsh gonna judge the world, which means you are his eyes. The Shemash to rule by day, and the Yard to rule by night, because you are his eyes. I looked out the window and I saw somebody. You're a truthful witness. I saw somebody lacking sense. But are you a truthful witness? Then people say, I'm not a truthful witness. Right? The Aydah are in every place, keeping watch over the evil, on the evil and the good. The man and the woman become like one of us. They became like us now. You're a judge now. It's real heavy, ain't it? It's a heavy burden. Make you cry sometimes. Make you sorrowful. Take your joy away sometimes too. It do. It removes it'll allow you to have, he said, you gotta exercise self-control. And you gotta be gentle. And you gotta be just like your father. You gotta judge properly too. You gotta have, and then you gotta keep your joy and your patience. You gotta be patient like him. You gotta have love like him. Steadfast, everlasting love like him. You gotta have faithfulness like him. You gotta do all these fruits that he has while executing judgment on people who have the works of the flesh. Right? And it says, but perverseness in it breaks the Ruach. Because when you start having perverseness, actually going up. Sorry. The Aydah in every place, keeping watch over the evil and the good. A gentle tongue is a tree of life. Now you see why he said, there ain't no commandment that he said you can't eat from the tree of life either. Now you say, Yahusha said, where are your accusers? No, there's no accusers. Neither do I accuse you. Go and sin no more. A gentle tongue is a tree of life. Because there's no commandment to say they couldn't eat from the tree of life. That's what he gave her. She deserved death. He gave her life. And now you had to put him on in Yahushua Mashiach in a world where your emotions and your anger and your resentment and your wrath and your lying and all these things rise up in you and you want to use it against people. He said, because it's a bitter life you have because of all the things that happened to you before you became a judge. And you don't know how to bring it into subjection, and now you can't judge properly in the right, proper way. And you destroyed people. It says, a fool, get what it says, a gentle tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in your tongue breaks the Ruach. A fool despises his father's instructions. Let me see what Adam was. But actually, Adam didn't despise his instructions. It's just the fact that the woman took the lead, and then that man, she took it, Nakash deceived her. And she thought she was wiser than everybody else, and then not even knowing that wisdom that she wanted so bad and so early was the very thing that brought death and heavy and sorrowful and all these things. And people say, why are you not happy? Why are you not joyful? Maybe because you brought the sorrow. Maybe you brought the heaviness. Like people say, he said, examine yourself whether you be in the moon or not. A fool despises his father's instructions, but whosoever heeds reproof is prudent. And that's what Yahuwah does. He reproves. And the prudent will keep silent in that time either, because it's an evil time. But he said, Yahuwah, you hid these things from the wise and prudent and revealed them to babes. Why are you going to give it to babies? Because Adam and Qahalath were babies. And I got to hurry up and get you ready to judge. Because you weren't supposed to have the knowledge yet. I'm that serpent that you lift your heel up when I Pesach. I was trying to get you 12 men to get you ready to judge properly, to judge people. And I had to hurry up and get you ready. That's how to reveal it to babes. The wise and the prudent thought they could see. And I had to really help you out before. I had to hurry up and get you ready. Because they ain't ready. They never were. They had to come like children again. And get it revealed to them like babes again, in order for them to actually become proper jurors of the world. Because they ain't new going to inherit their lives. They ain't new going to judge the earth. A fool despises his father's instruction, but whosoever heeds reproof is prudent. In the house of the righteous there is much treasure. And we just talked about wisdom is the wealth of the wise. There's a lot of treasure. You know what happens? In the house of the righteous there is much treasure, but trouble befalls the income of the wicked. I'm going to darken the sun at noontime. Make that day go. It ain't going to be the full 12 hours. It's going to be 6 hours for all that stuff y'all been doing. I'm going to make sure I cut your revenue short. Just like the book of Amos and the book of Micah chapter 3. I'm going to cut y'all revenue in half. Your income, no. Your income getting cut in half. I'm gonna make the righteous treasures, I'm gonna make their treasures good. I'm gonna cut yours in half. Because I'm tired of y'all swindlers and extortioners. Verse 8, the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to Yahuwah. But guess what it says? But the prayer of the upright is acceptable to him. So prayer is a sacrifice. You know, the morning sacrifice and the evening sacrifice and the noon sacrifice. You know, all these things we offer continually. That's a sacrifice. The way of a wicked is an abomination to Yahuwah, but he loves him who pursues righteousness. Because how you going to be a righteous judge like Yahushua the righteous judge? Right? But how you going to be the righteous judge if you ain't pursuing righteousness? Which means you're going to be judged. You got a knowledge of good and evil, but you ain't going to be judging properly though. You're not going to be mishpat in your heart and your mind properly. There is a severe discipline for him who forsakes the way. Severe. Whoever hates reproof will die. He said, whosoever hates reproof is going to die, right? This is Romans chapter 1 and verse 26. He said, you're going to die. Romans chapter 1 verse 26. For this reason, Elohim gave them up to dishonorable passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And the men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passions for one another. And then what Adam and Qahalath realized they were naked. You were like, y'all gonna, I know you ain't supposed to have the knowledge, but Adam gonna touch you, and it's gonna be on, and you ain't gonna be able to keep yourself in control, and y'all gonna the Leviathan. Y'all gonna have children. And guess what's gonna happen? Them children gonna have to be wise as serpents. Like Nakaz, but gentle as a dove. That's where you come from. You're going to be real gentle as a dove. Because your tongue got to be a tree of life. Because you know when you ain't got a gentle tongue? Just like a snake. You got to be like a gentle bird. You know a bird? You see a bird, when the bird lands in your arms, you know what it do? Gentle dove. But you know when you ain't got that gentle tongue, you already know what's going to happen. Snake, poison, venom, right? You're going to turn into Cobra Commander. Your head's a Yasharah, right? You're going to turn into a reptilian shape-shifting devil. You're going to be able to shape-shift into any form just to spit your venom. You're going to be shape-shifting into another everything. But it says, and men likewise gave it their natural use with women and were consumed in their passions for one another. Now you see what happened with the knowledge of good and evil. It all came through that. Because they were, Adam and Qahalath desired each other, both male and female, right? And then they turned them women with women and men with men. And then guess what? It mutated. It changed its course. The way that it was supposed to be in the beginning, now they forsook the way that it was before. And now you deserve to die because you hate reproof and somebody telling you the correct way to do it. It says, men committing shameless acts with men and receiving in themselves the due penalty of their error. So please don't be thinking you ain't going to get the due penalty of your error. That's where there's diseases, demons, shadim, brulifer. Right? The demon brulifer, y'all going to be having all these shadim all in your life. Filthy spirits, right? All these things come with it. It's an error. You know what happens after that? Then you want to get married and have children. And you know what happens after that? What type of children you think gonna come up? Righteous children with righteous behaviors and righteous love and compassion, gentle tongues. Usually the children are created after the kind of the parents. So what type of children you gonna have? It's a due penalty of your error. People say, oh yeah, you get the judgment, mishpat. We know good and evil now. Knowledge of good and evil here. So your penalty and your judge of what you're going to get is going to be that. Regardless of how you feel and regardless of how you think. That's the penalty of it. We get, for the wages of sin is death. We get penalties. People say, man, you know the punishments for these things? Why would you continue to do that? And it says right here, and since they did not see fit to acknowledge Elohim, Elohim gave them up to debased mind, to do what ought not to be done. So people think these things should continually be done. You say you deserve to die. You deserve to die. Get what it says. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness. You deserve to die. Evil. You deserve to die. Covetousness. That's the 10 Commandments. Malice. Barak is he who have no malice. He a cheerful countenance. That's why you know people got malice in their heart against people. They are full of envy. Isn't that what a woman, envy rottens bones, it shortens your life. It rots the bones of your husband. It kills him early. It destroys his inward man. Murder. It makes you murder people. It's all evil. Strife. You shouldn't do this. Deceit. We just talked about deceit. Uttering lies of a truthful witness, but a false witness others deceit. And breathe out lies. Can't do that. Maliciousness. Malicious words. Want to fight. They are gossips. These are all things that should not be done. Slanderers. Haters of Elohim. Insolent. That's complacent. People. Haughty. Boastful. Insolent. Disrespectful. Haughty. Boastful. Inventors of evil. Disobedient to parents. Foolish. Faithless. Heartless. Ruthless. Though they know Elohim's righteous decree. You know Adam and Qahalath knew? But they didn't know how to judge between good and evil though. That those who practice such things deserve to die. So people say, I don't deserve death. I guarantee you, you've done these things some of these things in your life. And you say, I ain't never done none of these things in my life. I say, yeah, right. You deserve to die. Everybody deserves to die. People say, I don't deserve to die. Yes, you do. They not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them, because you are a judge. You must have took a bribe then. Yeah, you took a bribe. You know what happened? You exact interest and you just got rid of all the poor, made them your slaves, so they depend on you for a paycheck. So then they ain't gonna judge you properly because you gotta pay them. So then now you're swindling people and you probably put extra pressure on your husband to go get more money and do extra stuff for your behind. And then you know what you did? It clouded his judgment on what his judgment really is for you. Or your children, you know what your children do. They say, I want this, I want that. You know, good one you don't deserve it. You swindled everybody out here. You already done stole out here in the first place. And then you got some extra money on the side, but it was extortion. And now you want to come to him and say, put pressure on him and make his life heavy because you want to kill him early to get inheritance money. Or get your inheritance. Dang, there's a lot of reasons how people can get you there. You say, you give approval to those who price. You ain't no judge. You ain't no mishpat. You ain't got justice in the gate. Because there ain't no justice in the gate. That's the only reason people doing it. And how you who are going to be gracious to you? When he passed by, is his hand going to cover you? Is his hand going to cover you from this? This is the book of Yeshayahu. I guess this thing going on. Yeshayahu chapter 29 and verse 6. Yeshayahu 29 and verse 6. Isaiah 29 and 6. You will be visited by Yahuwah of hosts. He said, I'm going to come by. I'm going to pass by you. I'm going to visit you. I'm going to put my right hand over you and cover you, Messiah, and you're going to see my back paws after it's over. I can't let you see my face. If I see you see my face, you're going to die. Just like we said, you deserve to die. Yahuwah ain't got none of them behaviors you read in Romans chapter 1. So when you see his face, what do you think gonna happen to you? When you go meet the real supreme judge, what do you think gonna happen when Yahushua come back? He's gonna take the beast and the false nabi, the false judge, the false male and female, the false nabi iyaz, and all y'all gonna throw y'all in the lake of fire. You're gonna die. But those who fear Yahuwah are going to have refuge, though. He said, man, I need it. Now you see why people say, man, I need it. He said, man, be quiet. And he said, in quietness, in soundness. This is all a part of it. And they get what it says. But the multitude of your foreign folk, he'll say, going over to, verse 6. You will be visited by Yahuwah of hosts with thunder, with earthquake, and with great noise, with the whirlwind. And the tempest. Isn't that what Turah means? Turah means tempest. It means storm, hurricane. It means things that blow you and throw you. If you ain't got your hand over you, understand you ain't going to survive this one. You ain't going to survive this one. Earthquake, you ain't going to survive this one. Great noise. You see all this noise in the world? Thunder. You ever seen lightning? But we be hearing lightning sound different. Thunder sound different now. It used to sound, when I was young, the lightning and the thunder, people ain't listened before because they never listened. The thunder sounded different. Today, the thunder sounds totally different. It sounds a little bit more stronger than it was back when I was a child. All you gotta do is listen. If you was in a place where a lot of rain fell, it sounds totally different now. You know how we talked about distinction of sound last year in Turah? You give out certain notes, and you can discern the distinction of the sound. The sound has changed. He's like, this ain't sounding the same way it used to be. He must be real. He real mad. I remember when we used to have thunderstorms. When the lightning hit and the thunder hit, they tell you turn the TV off, turn everything off, turn your cell phone off, turn all the stuff. Them people don't do that no more. He said, I ain't scared. He says, with thunder and earthquake and great noise, with whirlwind and tempest and the flames of devouring fire. He said, you deserve to die. And the multitudes in all nations, Goim, that fight against Ariel and all that fight against her and her strongholds, because you know there's refuge in those who fear Yahuwah, and distress her, shall be like a dream. He said, man, it's going to be just like your dream. You know how people have these dreams? These Tarday mom. It's going to be like a dream and a vision in the night. It's going to go by so fast. It's going to be just like a vision in the night. It's going to be like you were there at 1 minute and you gone the next. as when a hungry man dreams, and behold, he is eating, and awakes with his hunger not satisfied. You're going to be like, man, that was just a dream. Because you know what happens when you ain't got your hunger satisfied. That means there's a famine in the land. I told you we should die to prepare for a famine. There's going to be a famine in the land. Or as when a thirsty man dreams, and behold, he is drinking, and awakes faint. And he said the young men and the virgins going to faint. Ain't nobody going to be doing it, man. Everybody fornicating and committing adultery now. And awakes and faint, and his thirst is not quenched. So shall the multitude of all nations be that fight against Mount Zion. Because you ain't going to have no water. You ain't going to have no rain. You ain't going to have no light. And you ain't got no oil. And you're not going to have the bar to reprove you and give you proper judgment. And you're going to be doing things all in erratic behavior until Yahuwah come back here. And he's going to preserve you for the lake of fire. Because you all won't be quiet. You all won't, he said, you all don't want to hear the debar. Because they have no place in you. Just like the Yasharal Yehudi didn't want to hear Yahusha. And you see what happened to them. Where they at? Where we at now? You don't even know. They spin on the bottle top on the table. You don't even know where you are. It's inception on the 3rd degree. You don't even know where you are. The people that are lost are not lost. They just don't know where they are. You don't even know where you are. But that's the whole point of this whole thing. This is the truth, right? Right? Everybody say that, right? So this is the book of 2 Chronicles, Dabarim HaYamim, chapter 7, 11 through 12. Then Shalom finished the house of Yahuwah and the king's house. That's why he said, Shammah is my throne, the earth is my footstool. What house will you build for me? Where's the place of my rest? Have you completed the house yet? Have you finished it? That's what Yahusha did. He finished the house. He said, it is finished. In Yehukanan chapter 19. Right? He said, it is finished. And he gave it the Ruach. All that Shalom had planned to do in the house of Yahuwah and in his own house, he successfully accomplished. Like, as a matter of fact, we need some mishpat in the gate. We need some judgment in the gate. We do. You accomplish it. Then Yahuwah appeared to Shalom in the night and said to him, in the Tardemar, in a dream, we just read about a dream. Man, it's going to be like a dream in the night. And what did he do? I have heard your prayer. Oh, a prayer. He sacrificed Yahuwah as an abomination, but the prayer of the righteous. A prayer of the righteous is a sacrifice? I have heard your prayer and chosen this place for myself as a house of sacrifice. Oh, I've chosen you. Many are called, but few are chosen. Oh, so if you complete your house and you pray in your house and Yahuwah hears your prayer, he will choose you. Now he told us what he told us to do. And Yeshayahu, go close the door. When you pray, go close the door. And Yahuwah if Yahuwah hear your prayer, he gonna choose you. Choose you to do what? He gonna choose you. Choose your house. And you know what it says? And when I shut up Shamaim so that there is no rain, when I cause a famine in the land, or command the locusts to devour the land, when I cause devouring insectoids, because I have authority of the fish of the sea, follow every creepy thing, and over the remes, and cause it to eat your food. That even goes a lot deeper. We're going to talk about it too. And send pestilence among my people, if my people which are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and do what? And turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from Shamaim and I will forgive their sin and I will heal them. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to their prayer that is made in this place. So you want Yahuwah to attend to you, but then say, oh, you can't even judge properly. He said, you ain't even discern properly. For now I have chosen and consecrated this house that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart will be there for all time. And as for you, if you will walk before me as David, your father walked, do according to all that I command you and keep my statutes and my rules, then I will establish your royal throne as I have covenanted with Dawid your father, saying, you shall not lack a man to rule Yasharal. He said, you lack a woman. You shall not lack a woman. That's not where it's pertaining to a man. You shall you put on a woman's garment. Adam, where are you? Verse 19. But if you turn aside and forsake my statutes and my commandments, that I have set before you, and go serve other gods and worship them. Because other gods, what do other gods do? They put the goddess up. They worship the woman. They put the woman on. What do you think all this stuff is about? He say 7 women gonna take hold of 1 man in the book of Yeshayahu chapter 4. But then they show you Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, and they show you a woman, 7 men taking hold of a woman. And they saying, hi ho, getting ready to have an orgy. And then you thinking like, why would they do opposite of what Yahuwah said? Because they already know. Because you don't know. Because you blind. Because you can't cohabitate with 7 women in one, he said, with 1 man. Because you know why? Because Satan got your mind. Because you don't even know that what 7 even mean. Why you even got 7 women taking hold of 1 man? Because they equal to 8. Because when you equals to 8, then you start seeing Yahuwah, then you start seeing the bar, then you start seeing Yehudi, and then you start seeing other things that you never see. Then you start seeing circumcision, and why he circumcised a male on the 8th day, and why he put a man over there on the throne of David, on the throne of Dawid, on the house of Yehuda. And then you start to see why your error is, and why your mind is off, and why Satan got your heart and your mind, and why you've been induced, and why just like Dom didn't even understand the blood. You don't even know what a Dom is, because that's what Dom is. It means blood. And yet you redeem the corruptible things, not silver and gold, with his precious blood. And why he holds the 7 stars in his right hand, and why he told you that 7, he said, I saw 7 golden lampstands. And you say, why would he say that in the book of Hazum? Because you don't know. And why he got 7 trumpets? 7 to rule. 7 to rule blacks. Because you know why? Because they're trying to get rid of it. So you won't understand it. So when it happens, it's just going to come upon you, and you ain't going to know. You're going to have locusts eating your flesh. Because you ain't got the seal of Yahuwah in your heart and your mind. You got the other people's seal in your heart and your mind. And you know what's going to happen to you? You deserve to die. But if you turn aside and forsake my statutes and my commandments that I have set before you, and go serve other gods and worship them, then I will pluck you up from the land that I am giving you. And in this house that I have consecrated for my name, I will cast out my sight. That's why you think he cast out Adam and Kulah. And I will make you a proverb and a byword among the people. Isn't that what we are now? That's why you think you a proverb and a byword, and now you worship other gods, and now you don't even believe your own book, your own Torah. You don't even believe it. And this house that was exalted, it was an exalted house it was in. Everyone passing by will be astonished and say, why has Yahuwah done thus to this land and to this house? He said, why he destroyed the house? Then they will say, because he abandoned Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Mizraim, and laid hold on other gods and worshipped them and served them. And guess what happens? Therefore, he brought all disasters on them. And he said, Yahuwah passed by. There wasn't no mishpat in the gate. Yahuwah passed by, and you know what he did? He didn't cover you with his right hand. Because you don't even believe he holds 7 stars in the right hand. You don't even believe in his right hand. You don't believe in his yard. So therefore, you don't believe in his yard. Why would he cover you? You don't even know your 10th letter of the alphabet. How you even know it? That's why you don't believe that 7 women going to take hold of one man. Because you know why? Because how you going to cover you? How in the world he going to cover you from the disasters going to happen? He said you don't even believe. You got evil heart of unbelief. So that evil heart, that evil eye, that evil darkness eye, that dark eye you have, that evil eye won't allow you to actually inherit eternal life. And you people think that's not true. Okay. You're going to get rid of the Shabath, the 7 heavens, right? You're going to just get rid of it. I know you are. People say, I know they are. You're going to get rid of the Shabath, and you're going to say, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to take over the first one. That's what people are going to do. Right, that word for humble, it said, my people called by my name will humble themselves. That word for humble is Qahalath. It's spelled with a kaf, a noon and an ayin. Because you got to see it. You got to see it last. First, you got to get that kaf in your face, because he's going to put his kaf on you. Because when you use his left hand, it ain't the same as the right hand. When Yahuwah uses kaf, I'm gonna put my hand against you. That's his kaf. He gonna hit you across your head. Then that's going to give you life, because that's what noon means. Because when he smack you across your head and he give you correction, and he smack you and he knock you on your head, then guess what you're going to do after that, after you get life? Because that's what's going to happen. You're going to see it. Then you'll see again. Because before you couldn't see. Until I used my cough, then I gave you life. I knocked you in the head with my cough. Then I gave you life in a resprout. I allow you to see again. That's what noon means. See, Canaan. And then what did I do? I allow you to see it again. If you humble yourself and allow me to subdue you again and humiliate you. That's what he said, my people call my name will humble themselves. Because they got to come back to him. Because they were blinded. That's what he meant. Because you got to be able to get hit in your head and get corrected. Then you got to get life again. That's what's going to give you. And then you're going to be able to see again. Or you're going to be like the scribes and the Pharisees in Yucatan chapter 9. What? You saying that we blind? We just said, if you were blind, you will have no guilt. Because I could come and hit you in my head with my cough and give you life again, resprout, and you'll be able to see again. But being that you say you see, your guilt remains. You ain't humble. You're not a humble man or woman. You're not a humble man or woman. Hey, you know, he said you only pretended. He said, in pretense, they return to me, not with their whole heart. That's why they got all these different erratic things, the things they won't believe because of their evil heart. It's a pretending heart. It's Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 3. And he humbled you. And he led you to hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man, Adam, does not live by bread alone, lakam, by the things he was toiling on the ground and making for his family. He's going to eat bread all the days of his life, lakam. But man lives by every word that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah. He said, you better obey everything he said. Or you're going to find yourself, that word for humble is anah. And it starts with an ayin. And you got to see it. See life, behold light. That's what ayin, noon, and ha mean. See life, ha, behold, revealed. Because he's telling you to see life, woman. Because that's what the ha mean at the end. It's feminine. See life, a woman. Adam does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah. He had to humble you to understand that, woman. Because that's why he married Yasharal and Yahuwah. He married Yasharal. You need to understand that, woman, that every word that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah, you need to understand, you need to see it, and you need to he said you need life and you need to see it and you need to see this. You need to see life, woman. And guess what it means? It means to what? To put down, to stoop, to humble, to afflict, to be humiliated, to humble, to weaken oneself, to be bowed down, to humble oneself, to become low, to be bowed down. Why? To submit self, to weaken, to afflict yourself, to humble yourself, to force yourself, to exercise yourself, your mind. That's what he's telling the Enoch, the Ha, to do, the feminine nature. See a life, woman, feminine. Every debar that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah, you know how Yahuwah didn't obey every debar that came out of the mouth of Yahuwah? And they got death. He's telling you to see life, woman. Humble yourself. And anything I tell Adam, guess what you're going to have to do? The same thing. Right, Proverbs 29:23. One's pride will bring him low. That's what happens. That's why he's telling a man or woman that's prideful. He said, you enough. But he who is lowly in Ruach obtains honor. How do you think you're going to attain honor? He said, a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. In the book of Ecclesiastes, Qahalath. The word for lowly is shafal. It means to be depressed, humble, low. But he who is of a humble and humiliated, because that's what we talked about. So this man will I look, him who is a humble and contrite heart, a low, depressed state. This person will I look to build my house. And when you complete it, Yahuwah will choose you in your prayer. Because prayer is a good sign of one's humility. Because Yahuwah hears the words you say when you pray. And he knows if you humble or if you just not. Right, this is the book of Psalms 37, 7-11. Be still before Yahuwah and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself or Korah over the one who prospers in the way, and the man who carries out evil devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Fret Korah not yourself, it tends only to evil. That's why you ain't gonna be able to mishpat. For evildoers shall be cut off. How you gonna be cut off? Mishpat. They're going to receive the due penalty of their error. But those who wait for Yahuwah shall inherit the Aydahchay. He said, you wait for him. But if you ain't going to wait for Yahuwah, amazingly, Adam and Yahuwah did not wait for him. He was coming too. He was on his way. And you know what happened? They ended up getting the knowledge of good and evil without him telling them. It got it from the Chdsh, and then they ended up getting it, and then it brought death to them. And they lost their inheritance. They didn't get the Aydahs. They were supposed to rule over all the earth. And he cast them out in the gun. That's why you gotta wait for Yahuwah. Because people don't want to wait. They don't want to wait for the food to be done. Verse 10 says, and in just a little while the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the Aydahs and delight themselves in the abundance of shalom. The word for be still is daman. It means to be dumb, be quiet, to make quiet, to be still, to be silent. It's an evil time to be silent, to be made silent, because it's an evil time. He said the prudent gonna be silent that time. They're gonna be real quiet. They're like, man, look at him. Ooh, who are executing judgment? You ever got a whooping by a parent and the kids be like, y'all better not say nothing. Nah. When people get in judgment, you don't need to say nothing. You just need to be quiet. You getting whooping? You better not say nothing either. I'm gonna get you too. You don't need to be posting, Yahuwah's gonna kill you. You don't do it. He told y'all, right? Nah, he already told you before. You don't need to post nothing. You don't need to say nothing. You just need to just be quiet. Yeah, this is not a game, right? this is not a game, right? And the word for the meek shall inherit the Aydah. That word for meek is Aydah. That means poor, humble, afflicted, meek, poor, needy, poor, afflicted, humble, meek. That means what? Aydah. You got to see it. See life and be joined to it. Notice there ain't no ha at the end of that. So now he's talking to everybody. Now he's talking to everybody. See life and be joined to it. Aydah. Be afflicted, meek, depressed. How you say humble? Blessed are the poor in Ruach. Meek, humble, weak. Right? So that word for lock themselves in abundance of shalom, that means completeness. That word for shalom is completeness, soundness, quiet, tranquility. Right? To be happy. How you say joyful, friendly. Right? All this is a part of what? Shalom. And that's what shalom is. But then when you leave that, he said, that's on you. Proverbs 16:19 through 20. It is better to be of a shafal ruach, a lowly ruach, with the Aydah than divide the spoil with the proud. With them people he gonna darken the sun at noon because they were doing all that unjust gain. Man, I'm gonna get that cat, I'm gonna get that money like them. I'm gonna get that gain like them. But Yahuwah said, I'm gonna darken in the clear day. Noontime, I'm gonna make the sun go down. Matter of fact, I'm gonna make sure you don't get no more money. I'm gonna cut your wages in half. I'm gonna cut your whole income. Like they had this split in the contract when I was playing sports, right? When you get injured, he said, man, your whole contract go get split in half. Man, that's John Hurt. He said, all I got is injured. He's like, yeah, I split it. That's exactly how I do these people. Whosoever gives thought to the word discovers good, and Barak is the one who trusts in Yahuwah, right? Because when you give thought to the debar, you discover real good, right? You discover that good that you need to do, and that evil you cast away. Verse 22, Proverbs 22:4. The reward of humility and the fear of Yahuwah is riches, honor, and life, because wisdom is wealth to the wise. When you got humility, that means you're meek, and humility, that means clemency, right? Maybe you got a recognition of clement, right? But all these are part. Clemency means mercy and leniency. Condensation means superiority, right? Humility. Righteousness exalts a nation. Gentleness and meekness. That's a newer. That means you got to see it, see life, be joined to it. Feminine nature. See, watch, and experience life, be joined and secured to it. Behold, the light will be revealed to you. Feminine nature. That's all part of it. Right? Matthew 6:22 through 23. The eye is the lamp of the body, the iron. So if your iron is healthy, your whole body be full of light. Your whole body. If your sight is full of light, and your eye is healthy, your iron, then your whole body be full of light. But if your eye is bad, evil, or peneros, or hurtful, or evil, your whole body will be full of darkness. The whole thing. Your whole eye will be full of darkness. Evil eye. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? You say, man, how Yahuwah is light. His eyes are healthy. When he gives his judgments, it is what? Precise. His eye real healthy. Iron. He ain't no darkness in it at all, right? Sirach 3:17 through 23. My son, go on thy business in meekness, Aydah. So shall thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. Why do you think Yahuwah was so humble? The greatest among you shall be as the youngest, as a child, and the leader as one who serves. Why do you think Yahuwah was so humble? Hushua was so humble? You say, why he was so humble? Because his father is humble. The son can do only what his father do. Whatsoever the father, the son does likewise. said, why he was so gentle? Because that's who he is. And why he was beating people out of the temple? Because you made his house a den of thieves. And that's what he do to thieves. He beat you with many stripes because you know the righteous decrees, and then you start stealing. So then he started beating you behind. And that's just how it works. That's how a parent is in the house. You're going to bring judgment on the house. If they don't stop stealing, then Yahuwah's judgment going to be on you because you're children. He says, humble thyself, thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high places and renowned. They're up there. The mysteries are revealed unto the Aydah. That's why you stay in that state. How you going to get the mystery? Yahuwah hid all this stuff in a mystery. And he reveals more, you have to be able to discern it. And you got to be in a humble state, or you're going to be the one saying things back to Yahuwah when he says something to you. And he revealed a mystery and you ain't never know it. And you're going to be opening your mouth and Yahuwah going to be lying. You ain't humble at all. For the power of Yahuwah is great and honor with the lowly. That's what it is. He ain't honored with no other people. So please don't be thinking these people who ain't lowly, who ain't new, Yahuwah, you getting honored. No. He ain't never going to be honored among those people. Seek not out things too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. Why? Because the hard actual judgment, you don't need to be seeking out nothing. You need to let Yahushua do that. That's too hard. You know, people do that. I know all the answers and the questions and all this. I said, man, you need to, it's too hard, man. You let Yahushua do it. You're doing too much, right? And then you're going to find yourself thinking you better than Yahushua. And then now you're going to find yourself thinking that you should be honored more than him. Then they're going to be speaking the word, and they're going to be thinking it's the word of Yahuwah, and then the Malachi going to come strike you down like he did that king in the book of Acts. Verse 22, but what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. That's all you got to do, just think on that. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. Why? Because it's real heavy. That's what Yahuwah got to look at. The eyes of Yahuwah in every place, beholding the evil and the good. It was never intended for Adam to have all that in his head. That's why you think they put it on the internet, on your cell phone, on everywhere. You can see it in the other parts of the world. You can see it in Saudi Arabia, in South Africa, in northern Siberia. He got all this stuff on you. It's not needful for you to look on all these things and the good and the evil of all the world. It ain't good for you. That's Yahuwah's job, to look on all the things that are all in the world and the evil and the good. Why do you think Satan put that? Nakash is so good at what he did. He knew it was going to make you heavy. It was going to make you sorrowful. Somebody get killed on the other side. Oh my gosh. Your emotions all erratic. You know, he put that stuff in your face for a reason. He real good at what he do. I told you this being is very, very wise. This man good. Now he said he real good. Boy, he catch that thing in one hand. You throw it over there. He throw that thing, but he catching that thing backwards. He ain't looking at the ball. Everybody want him. He real good, man. But he says, for it is not needful to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. Right? Yahuwah can see all the secret things of people's heart. He gonna judge the secrets of your heart. You don't need to be knowing everybody's secrets. You can't hold it. You can't carry it. You're gonna die. You ain't gonna be joyful. You ain't gonna have no joy. You ain't have no peace. You ain't have no peace and no shalom. You ain't have nothing. It's gonna be torment. It's not for us to know. People say, why? Because if we know it all, then it's going to create things in your heart and your mind, and Satan will have avenues to get in. Verse 23, be not curious in unnecessary matters. He said, if it ain't got to do with your vicinity, in your life, in your house, in your mind, if it ain't got nothing to do with that, you don't need to be exercising yourself in other men's matters and busybodies. He said, man, you busy in other people's matters. You're the only thing you be busy with in Yahuwah's business. I'm not saying we ain't supposed to be watching. We need to be watching everything. But at the same time, man, that's unnecessary. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I fill my mind with that, man. I'm gonna be all over the place. I ain't got time for that. Unless it show up in my doorstep, and then he say, okay, now you're in trouble. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men and women understand, because you got to be in a humble state. You need to understand that Yahuwah looks at all the secrets of men. You need to understand Yahushua does the hard thing, judges the hard thing. You judge the small matters. And you need to understand Like, He's going to show you more things than men and women understand. Then you stay in that state, and you will never have to have all these things in your heart. And these are all a part of it. And this is all a part of it. Right? So this is the book of Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 11. Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4 verse 11. Let us strive to enter that rest, so that no one may fall by the same sort of disobedience. For the word of Elohim is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing the division of soul and ruach, of joints and marrow, and discerning the thoughts and the intentions of the heart. Just intentions. And no creature is hidden from his sight. Whose sight? Your sight? His sight. Yahuwah's sight. Yahushua Mashiach's sight. You ain't hidden. He see us. But all are naked and exposed to the eyes of him who we must give an account. We all naked like Adam. We all naked. He said, man, we naked just like Adam. Please don't be walking around. I got all these clothes on. I got this head wrap and this nice hijab, like they say. I got all these other different things on and all these different clothes. Matter of fact, I got on a bikini. I got on loincloths. I got on a toupee, right? You think Yahuwah don't see you with that fake mask you got on that you put on your head? That he said he be doing out here now? He said, Yahuwah see all that stuff y'all got on. Yahuwah said you naked. So please don't be thinking you got clothes on when you come before him. Like, I got all these clothes on, boy, look at me. Man may not see your stuff, but Yahuwah see everything you did. He know if you committed adultery, fornication. He know if you lying to your husband. When you say, I ain't never did nothing. This ruach of jealousy come when you get the elixir. He already know before you take the drink. He know everything before you even do all the things that people be doing in the Torah. All these things they be doing. He's already know what y'all doing. Right? So please don't be thinking like he don't be seeing nothing. He be seeing everything we do. I'm modest apparel, shamefacedness is sobriety. You know how they put in all these translations? They will see straight through you. That stuff don't mean nothing. We all naked. We desire to be clothed with our kingdom from above, Yahushua Mashiach and Yahuwah. We're designed to be clothed by him. Just like Adam. That's what we're waiting on. That's going to be the real clothes we need to cover our nakedness. We ain't got no covering right now. You judge by the outward man. Yahuwah judged by the inward man. Right? And that's how he look at us. And we got to look at that. And we got to always keep that in our mind. Because if we don't, we're going to be judging according to outward man like everybody else. We're going to look just like everybody else. And we're going to be thinking, yeah. And it's like just like everybody else. And they not even understanding, what is and what is not. Right? So this is the last thing and I'm done. Right? So this is the book of... Still here. This is the book of Hebrews. This is the book of Hebrews, chapter. So this is the book of Hebrews. Actually, Romans. This is the book of Romans, chapter 16 and verse 19. And it says, "For your obedience is known to all, so that I rejoice over you. But I want you to be wise as to what is good, and innocent as to what is evil. The Elohim of peace will crush Satan under your feet. The grace or the khan of Yahuwah, Yahushua Mashiach, be with you." I mean, judgment is in the house now. Mishpat. How you gonna get khan? Because that's the whole point. Read again. It says, for your obedience is known to all, so that I rejoice over you. But I want you to be wise as to what is good, and innocent as to what is evil. Because you don't want to be convicted of something that's evil. You just want to be good and innocent when it's something evil. You want to be good and innocent, and you want to be wise out here, right? So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the light of life. Where he said, one desire to be a teacher. He said, he want to teach you again. Be the first principles of the oracles of Elohim. You have need of milk and not strong, he said, strong food. He said, solid food. So solid food is for the mature, who have their members exercised discerning between ta'ub and ra. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward being, we look at our inward thoughts. We look at Yahushua, the righteous judge. But when he said, when Adam and Eve partook of the actual fruit, and the knowledge of the tree, the knowledge of good and evil, they became judges. But then not even knowing they couldn't judge properly within themselves. They couldn't even judge within themselves, even as Yahushua was able to judge. Even then from morning to midday. But knowing that judgment that they had from Yahuwah, he set everything in order. But then at the same time, you understand our judgment. When you understand why he makes the sun go out the sixth hour, knowing that he cut their wages in half so they couldn't even get no gain, even when he was on totality, when he made the sun go out at noon. And he cut it short in the day. Because all the unjust gain and all the things they did in Matthew, all the things they did, even the unjust gain that Judas had, Yahuwah cut the day short, just to prove who he was to all Yasharal. He cut the day short right in the middle of the day, just to convict Judas of his unjust gain. And he destroying it, he say swindling and he say the extortion that he practiced and taking bribe. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward being, and we look at the love that Yahuwah has for us, and the truth that will make us free. For we say, go on your business in meekness, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah, and the one that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. For why? Because mysteries are revealed to the meek, the Anu. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek Anu shall inherit the Aydahs.